Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Tuesday, June 17th, 8:47 a.m. I am 2 minutes late, but we are still live. It's not like it was yesterday where it was 7 minutes late. So we are here. Futures are not actually red, to be honest. I mean, some parts of them are red. We got a lot of stocks that are actually green in the pre-markets. Pound share is at 142. Nvidia is at 145. We have retail sales data that we're going to be looking at that just came out 5 minutes ago. And we obviously have escalations in the context of Israel and Iran that are getting a bit more aggressive than what we had yesterday. And they're getting aggressive in a way that is a bit concerning to me in the context of what exactly we should be thinking about when it comes to how bad this could escalate. S&P 500 right here down about 0.42% in the pre-market, still at 6,000. So we're still at 6,000 on the S&P 500 futures, even though it's down. Robinhood right here, 76, down about 1%. Again, still green a lot from yesterday. Palantir right here, green, 142. Tessie, 326. And then Nvidia just below 145. What happened yesterday night has been a bit of a spin based on all the conflicting reports we got during the morning yesterday that kind of proved to the market that this conflict was going to be over. I mean, there was a variety of news reports that came out that basically told the market, hey, we think the worst of this is done and we're going to move on. And that's why I think we had the markets go as green as they went yesterday. Now that might not be the case. And obviously, as we get more data, we have to react to it as investors, and the market will react to it as well. And, stocks are not really down per se to the point where this new data that we're going to get into is horrible, but it is new data. And from all the stuff we're going to look at, it does feel like there might be a bit more escalation than we thought yesterday. And will that result in like something horrible, some massive war, World War III? I don't think so, but it is definitely something that the market is keeping an eye on, and we're going to go deeper into to try to understand more for what's going on. On top of that, you have the New York Times come out with a new article on Palantir. We will talk about what's going on with Palantir. The New York Times, you think Israel, Iran, you think that they got content to talk about? No, they're focusing still on Palantir. So we will continue to analyze what the New York Times today said about Palantir and what's going on in the context of Congress that is now potentially getting involved with everything going on with Palantir as well. So we got a lot to talk about, a lot of macro data. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here today. And we will get a lot to discuss. Amit, bro, did you sleep at all? I did sleep. I know I was on Twitter at 2 a.m. and I was posting about what Trump tweeted about, but I did get some sleep. I think I slept till like 2:30, so I got some sleep. But yeah, Trump was tweeting last night, and I was following his tweets and trying to analyze what was going on in the broader markets. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. David, Walt, I'm Beneficial, June, D Visual Arts. Good morning. Henry, what's up? What's up? Rui, thank you all for being here. It is not my birthday, but thank you for the birthday wishes. October will be my birthday. And then I'll have an actual birthday. But thank you all for being here. Farzad, what's up? Thank you for being here. So, Farzad, he's asking, how is Metallica? Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to listen to them last night. I got a little busy, but I will try to listen to them today. For those that were on the market close yesterday, I did not. I think it's an incredible band. I think they have a storied history. I was a little busy last night, so I didn't get a chance to listen to Metallica, but in the future, I will take the time today to listen to Metallica, and we'll, the Puppet song, that's all those, big hits. I will try to listen to as well. I just got busy yesterday, dude. I went to the gym after I came from the market close. And then while I was in the gym, this whole freaking Trump leaves G7 early stuff was breaking. And so I had to focus on that. So Enter Sandman, Nothing Else Matters, The Unforgiven, all that stuff. The Master of Puppets, I'll listen to Metallica later today. I know it's Metallica, bro. I know it's Metallica. It was a joke yesterday on the market close. I know it's Metallica. Dude, yesterday, so my dad, his nose was a bit stuffy. Okay, so my dad, he was having some issues with his nose. He's feeling a little sick. Farzad's feeling a little sick right now. My dad's feeling a little sick as well. And he asked me last night, he's like, hey, can you go get me some Vicks? And I was like, oh, it was down today. He's like, what? I was like, the Vicks. It was, it wasn't that volatile. It was down today. He's like, what the hell are you talking about? I was like, the VIX, it was down, Dad. It was down 2%. What are you talking? He's like, I'm talking about the VIX for my nose. And I looked at him in that moment and I was like, I am so sorry. I am obsessed with these freaking markets. He was asking me for VICKS. You guys know this, right? This everyone in the world should know freaking VIX. And I was like, no, it was down today. Like it wasn't as volatile. I thought he thought the VIX was spiking because of Israel Iran. He was like, no, he needed this. His freaking nose was stuffy. And I was saying it was down 2%. It was ridiculous, bro. It was ridiculous. So then I went to get him the VIX, but the whole time as I'm driving to get the VIX, I'm thinking like, yo, dude, like I really said the VIX was down 2%. It was pretty aggressive. So yes, I need an intervention. I need an intervention, bro. By the way, thank you. VIX is 20.19. So there you go. But no, I didn't listen to Metallica last night. I'm going to listen to them today. Honestly, dude, I went to the gym after the market closed. And then while I was at the gym, this whole stuff started breaking in terms of all this news. And I was just like so locked in to try to cover it and understand what was going on. So I didn't get a chance to listen. I want to listen to them. Like I want to actually sit down and like listen to like 7 to 8 songs and like really get the experience, you know? And when I was at the gym, the big news that broke, which I guess transitions us into what we're going to talk about to start this off, is that Trump left G7 early. Trump left G7 early. I mean, that was a big one, dude. That was a big one. So this is what occupied my attention last night as soon as this started playing out. So let's get into it right here. The White House said much was accomplished, but because of what's going on in the Middle East, President Trump will be leaving tonight after dinner with heads of state. So this is where I knew last night, okay, something's going on. Something's going on. For Trump to leave G7, it means that there is a situation that is escalating to a degree where it's not as diplomatic enough for him to just stay in G7. He has to actually, get back to the White House and try to see what's going on. Here's a couple clips of what he said on Air Force One when he was coming back to the White House, and then we'll keep going from there.
Are you open to negotiating with the Iranians right now, or do you want to wait?
I don't know. I've been negotiating. I told them to do the deal. They should have done the deal. Their cities have been blown to pieces. They've lost a lot of people. They should have done the deal. I told them do the deal. So I don't know. I'm not too much in a mood to negotiate now.
Always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon, but how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having it. Remember, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. We don't have to go too deep into it. They just can't have a nuclear weapon.
So all 3 of those clips to me signal that something deeper is going on right here. And then after that, here's what Trump tweets. Iran should have signed the deal I told them to sign. What a shame and what a waste of human life. Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. And he says this, and the White House quote tweets it. And this is the White House Twitter account highlighting in yellow that last sentence. Tehran is a city with over 10 million people. And now it seems like, the Iranian citizens in that city are taking him very seriously, as videos have came out of people in Tehran leaving. They're like, all right, Trump's telling us to leave. Boom, we're leaving. People are taking it very seriously. So it begs the question, what the hell's going on? Yesterday, Trump said Iranian officials called him to say that they want to de-escalate. Everyone was like, okay, cool. And the markets, reacted quite positively towards that. Then call it about an hour later from that Wall Street Journal report, which Trump kind of confirmed when he was with Carney at G7. Iranian state media said, we didn't call him to de-escalate. We want to keep this going. We don't want to de-escalate. We want to hit harder. And so you had 2 conflicting reports. Right. By the way, that video I showed yesterday about the broadcaster that was doing the state media in Iran, and then the essentially the state media headquarters getting blown up and getting hit by a missile. That was not fake. That was not AI. That was real. Israel took credit for it, and Iran also confirmed that was an Israeli missile that hit them as well. 3 people died in that incident. The death toll in terms of the casualties right now, the official numbers are 24 people in Israel have been killed, 224 people in Iran. So that is the death toll right now for both countries. So yesterday, again, Trump said, hey, they want to de-escalate. Iran comes back and says, we don't want to de-escalate. And then 5 hours later, Trump is in G7. He was supposed to be there all week. He's like, yeah, I'm coming back. And not only is he coming back, he's telling reporters on Air Force One, I don't even really care about signing a deal with them anymore. They should have signed the deal already, which is kind of weird because he's, it's kind of like this. He's assessing the situation in past tense. It's kind of like the situation is beyond repair. That's kind of the vibe, at least I got. He didn't explicitly say that, but that's the vibe I'm getting. And then he says everyone should leave Tehran. And the implication of all of this, in my opinion, and the markets aren't really pricing this in yet, but we'll see how this plays out. The implication of all of this feels like the U.S. is getting involved in this war. That's what it feels like to me. And I wonder what people say. I'm curious about your guys' thoughts. But the implication of all of this so far seems like the United States is getting ready to get troops together and potentially go into war because Trump keeps stressing that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's not, he's been stressing this for a long time. So people are saying that his position has been consistent. That's fine. But the tone and the way in which he's saying it, and then the most obvious thing about him saying everyone should leave Tehran. I mean, why would you tell people to leave the city unless you think there's going to be a massive attack? And, now he's trying to get his MAGA base to come along with this idea. So he says America first means many great things, including the fact that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, make America great again. And then also he criticized Macron. He said, Macron mistakenly said that I left the G7 summit in Canada to go work in D.C. on a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Wrong. He has no idea why I'm on my way to Washington, but it certainly has nothing to do with a ceasefire. Much bigger than that. Whether purposely or not, Emmanuel always gets it wrong. Stay tuned. Okay, now when he says much bigger than a ceasefire, I mean, what the hell is much bigger than a ceasefire? Are we talking about military action? Are we talking about going to war? Like, are we talking about a massive peace deal, which would imply some level of ceasefire? So technically, you are working on a ceasefire. It's very confusing. It's very, very confusing in terms of what's going on. And quite frankly, markets are again, slightly down right here, down 0.5%. I don't think markets know how to price this. You would see growth stocks like HIMS get nuked. I mean, no pun intended, but you would see them get hit, 15, 20% if we really were going into war, right? Palantir, I don't know. Palantir's a growth stock with an aggressive multiple. Maybe that one gets hit. If we get into a war, maybe that one thrives off of it and we go higher. I'm not sure. But you would see the Teslas, even the Nvidias, you would see a lot, the Grabs, these things would all get hit 15 to 20% if the market really thought the US was entering into a war. And I don't think the market thinks that right now, but it's hard to assume otherwise, just given the nature of the rhetoric. Now, maybe the rhetoric is art of the deal, right? And Trump's trying to get people to think one thing and go the opposite direction. But nonetheless, it is getting to the point where people are asking, hey, what exactly are we doing? What exactly are we doing? How is it going to play out? And, where is this going to interact, or where is this going to lead to in terms of American citizens trying to figure out, are we getting into a war or not? My gut reaction tells me we are not going to get into a war and that Trump's going to find a way to resolve the situation and put everything together and hopefully get the Israelis to back down. Now, part of the reason why people are saying that Trump might want to get into the war, this is kind of the neocon argument, is that Iran really does have a nuke. One of the arguments here is that Iran does have a nuke, or they are closer to getting to a nuke, or that they have been supplied nuclear weapons on the back end, and Trump knows something that none of us don't know, and that now they're getting so serious about not letting them get a nuke that that the United States is getting involved in some capacity. Now, the White House press secretary deputy assistant did say yesterday this, so they kind of held off the rumors that the U.S. was definitely getting involved. Reports of the U.S. attacking Iran are not true. American forces are maintaining their defensive posture, and that has not changed. We will defend American interests. So we do have confirmation that American troops are remaining defensive versus offensive. But Trump leaving G7 and talking the way he's talking over the past 24 hours, it makes you think, hey, maybe there's a world in which this is going to get more serious, and that America and Israel might be getting into a serious war with Iran. Only time will tell over the coming probably days at this point. But we're going to have to find out. We are going to have to find out. The biggest thing, in my opinion, is when he said everyone should leave Tehran. That, to me, is the biggest takeaway of just if anything here doesn't matter in terms of what Trump's been saying, telling the citizens, the Chinese embassy as well told all their citizens to leave Israel. So, you could say as a precautionary tale, they're saying, hey, you should start leaving the country. But for Trump saying everyone should evacuate right now, get the hell out of here, is kind of him implying, Israel's not about to hold back, and potentially the United States is not about to hold back, and you should leave immediately because we might end up seriously getting into this conflict. So we're going to see. we're going to see how this plays out. I'm sure throughout the rest of the day, we'll get some more updates. We'll probably get some more quotes from Trump, but currently that is the largest update right now in Israel, Iran. I will say right now, personally, again, my personal opinion, I don't want to get into a war. I don't think it's worth it. I'm sure there's plenty of arguments on the side of why we need to go to war with Iran. There's a lot of arguments for why we don't need to go to war with Iran. My general stance is that the United States did not really find any weapons of mass destruction, and we lost millions of lives going into Iraq. I don't know if that's the best thing to replicate again. And then the biggest thing here is that I think that Trump's legacy would be a little cooked if we get into a war, because he ran on the whole America first. We're not going to fight other people's wars. We're not going to monitor, yada, yada. I mean, you talk about tariffs, pro-growth business, a war with Iran in the Middle East, which is going to last for the next 5 years if we meaningfully go at it. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be the best thing for his legacy, and definitely not. I don't think it's going to be the best thing for America. So over the coming months, we'll get some more updates and see what goes on. And hopefully in the next few days, we will have an understanding of what exactly America's stance is on this issue. Let's talk about retail sales data. So we did get some retail sales data this morning. It is actually down. This could also be another reason the S&P 500 is down about 0.5%. Retail sales in the U.S. declined 0.9% month over month in May 2025, following a downwardly revised 0.1% drop in April and worse than market forecast of 0.7%. So retail sales were not the best. It came down about negative 0.9%. Yes, I will be watching the Robinhood live stream. I think that's at 12 p.m. So I'll be watching that live, and we will see their new product that they're putting out. Now, the thing here that's interesting is that sales of motor vehicles and parts declined. We have the largest decline at 3.5%. Building material and garden equipment, 2.7% down, and gas stations down 2%. So yeah, these three that were the largest declines. This is not a really bad retail sales report, but nonetheless, it is technically an indication that theoretically higher prices across the entire retail industry via tariffs could have led to retail sales declining, which is actually not a bad thing for inflation, because even though there were higher prices, if there's less demand, that could be lowering inflation. But if this trend continues, it could be bad for the broader economy. I mean, Lululemon, I think, is the perfect example of retail sales in the month of May not really being the best. Lulu, again, was at 330. Now it's at 240. Took away their profit guidance. If we see more of that going into Q2 earnings for a lot of other companies that are in the retail business, that's not the best. But that was the retail sales data we got this morning as well. It is triple witching week. That means all week volumes are elevated increasingly, with a peak on Friday higher than earnings day volumes. It is triple witching week, right? But is Friday a quad witching day? For those that don't know, this is when like all the options simultaneously expire at the same time. I think you're right, because it's June. Yeah, you might be right. That could also be another thing that is affecting the markets. Yeah, June 20th. Yeah, quad witching. Yep. So, okay, so this week also could get wonky in the options market. You're going to have, I'll get the exact number, but I would imagine it's tens of billions of dollars of options that are going to be expiring on Friday. And so because we are in the week in which that expires, that could also be affecting markets as well. Yes, we are closed on Thursday. We are closed on Thursday for Juneteenth. So we have the market open tomorrow and then close Thursday, and then Friday we are back to analyze the markets. I'll see if we can do a stream on Thursday. I think we'll try to do a deep dive stream on Thursday. So I know Oscar, that one people are thinking about a lot. Oscar, by the way, that is up in the pre-markets 8%. Why? I don't know everything about Oscar, but I do know they are affected heavily by Medicare and regulations around Medicare. Apparently, last night, the Senate is omitting the Medicare cuts that were included in the original tax bill, which is super bullish for Oscar, because if you were to cut some of those benefits that the House of Representatives initially proved or initially proposed, then that would cut a ton of money and a ton of different ways that Oscar Health was going to be able to generate revenue. As soon as that was announced yesterday that it was going to get omitted from the Senate, which means that we're going to be spending even more money than what the spending bill said we were going to spend, Oscar went up like 8% after hours. So very big for Oscar. The stocks that did not benefit yesterday from that Senate bill: Enphase down 21%, Sunrun down 38%, Solar Edge down 32%, and First Solar, which was down 22%. All of the solar stocks got hit. The reason they got hit is because the subsidy for solar credits and the investment that the United States government was doing into solar credits is going to end by 2026. And all of that money, and that's not just for solar, that's also for wind. solar and wind, and I think the 7500 EV one is there as well. All three of those are getting hit, and that money is going to be transitioned to nuclear energy. So the Oklos, the SMRs, the NNEs, they stand to benefit, and then the nuclear credits are going to last till 2036. So solar is being phased out by the end of next year. Nuclear essentially is being phased in for the next decade, and the trade here has been short solar, long nuclear, which is kind of wild. But if you went with that trade, you have done very well. Cool. So that's what we got in the context of this tax bill, and those were the implications of it. So Oscar got some benefits. Solar did not. Broader market, again, I'm very curious to see how we open, because S&P is not really reacting. I mean, you could say this 599 on the S&P down from 603 is primarily based on the retail sales data versus anything that aggressive with Israel, Iran. But I think over the coming days, we're going to have to get a better understanding of how aggressive is this conflict getting. And really today, we're going to find out. I mean, I think at this point, we're going to know by the end of the day what exactly is the United States looking to do. Yeah, we're going to try to do the Oscar deep dive on Thursday. Maybe on Thursday, we'll try to do that. Robinhood live demos are going to be at 12 p.m. Eastern. 12 p.m. Eastern. And we will cover that as well. Trump did just post something. He didn't post about Iran. He posted a text he got from Mike Huckabee, who is a pastor, politician, ambassador. It's a very long text, as you can see right here. But essentially, the last couple sentences are, "You sent me to Israel to be your eyes, ears, and voice, and to make sure our flag flies above our embassy. My job is to be the last one to leave. I will not abandon this post. Our flag will not come down. You did not seek this moment. This moment sought you. It is my honor to serve you." Mike Huckabee. Okay, so again, these types of messages, it just feels, this is my intuition. You guys can disagree. I'm curious what you guys think, but my gut is telling me that Trump is trying to signal to everyone that we are going to get more involved in this war. Maybe it's not super offensive, like boots on the ground, but are we gonna do some airstrikes? I mean, like all these tweets, he doesn't have an Iran tweet. There is no Iran tweet. This is the last thing he just tweeted. If you're looking at an Iran tweet, it's from hours ago. There is no other new tweet. This is the only last thing he said 20 minutes ago. It just feels like he's trying to imply that the Make America Great Again brand, MAGA, includes protecting Israel and making sure unequivocally that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, which begs the question, what does unequivocally entail? Does that entail that, we're shooting missiles in our, like, what exactly is going on? I don't know. But like the way he's kind of done a little bit of a 180 in terms of how he's positioning this narrative, and leaving G7 early to me was the biggest sign that, all right, he is getting a lot more serious about what he needs to do and how he needs to resolve this. And again, when he says people should evacuate Tehran, and he says he's not interested in signing a deal anymore, which is essentially what he said on Air Force One. He's like, I'm not interested in signing a deal. Like, they should have signed the deal 2 months ago. So if they say, hey, let's sign the deal right now, would you not sign the deal? I feel like he would sign the deal. I think he knows that they don't want to sign the deal anymore, which is why he's saying they should. He, from a position of strength and perceptual dominance, he's saying they should have signed it 2 months ago. But like, if they came to sign it right now and gave up everything that we wanted them to give up, wouldn't you take that deal? Of course you would. They probably don't want to, I feel like, is the argument that he's implying, which is why he's trying to say they should have signed it months ago. And that's why it's spinning the kind of frame by which we should be thinking about, this entire conflict. This is going to be an interesting one, dude. If Trump's legacy is caught up in an Iranian war 200 days after he became president, less than 200 days, I don't even think he wants to deal with that. But then it's a question of who's advising him. Who are the people in his ear? Are they saying, hey, this is your duty, we have to stop Iran from it? Does Iran already have a nuke? Is he, becoming a wartime president? Like, this is one of those things where it could quite literally define the rest of his presidency. And I think over the coming days, we're going to get a lot more evidence in seeing how this is playing out. You got Palantir right here, 141.85. Let's talk about Palantir. So the New York Times is back, and they have put out an article on Mr. Palantir once again. So the article here is, lawmakers demand Palantir provide information about U.S. contracts. 10 Democratic lawmakers sent a letter to the tech company this week asking about its expanding contracts underneath the Trump administration. So Palantir got a letter from Congress Palantir got a letter from Congress, and they already responded to that letter. This is the post they put out this morning. They said, we received a letter from Democratic members of Congress requesting information in response to an incorrect and speculative article from the New York Times. Our work supporting Americans in uniform and nurses in hospital was compared to a collaboration with Nazi Germany and South Africa's apartheid regime. I haven't seen this letter yet. I don't know if the letter is out, but whoever sent the letter, I imagine, will be posting it soon. But the letter is comparing Palantir to Nazi Germany and the South African apartheid. At this very moment, thousands of U.S. soldiers are relying on our platforms to protect America and our allies across the world, especially in the Middle East. Our software is also enabling life-saving decisions at hospitals and helping to address the recent measles outbreak as part of our long-standing work with the CDC. Palantir is not building a master database. Palantir is neither conducting nor enabling mass surveillance of American citizens. No amount of parroting this false accusation will make it true. We are committed to America, regardless of which party the American people have voted into office. This should be obvious given our continuous work with the government for nearly 20 years. So once again, this story continues, and this story that the New York Times wants to, make into a bigger deal is continuing to be proliferated. Now, one thing that's interesting about this, Ilyana putting this out right here, is Shira Frankel was the journalist who put this out. The first thing they did 3 weeks ago is they published a fake story in terms of Palantir's, spying on the entire world. Now, 10 members of Congress demand that Palantir answer questions about the fake story, because the only reason these 10 members of Congress sent Palantir the letter is because of this New York Times story. And now, guess who the journalist is breaking this news about Palantir getting a letter from lawmakers? Shira Frankel and the New York Times that are breaking the news that 10 members of Congress demand that Palantir answer questions about the article that Shira Frankel published 2 weeks ago. It almost makes you think the New York Times and Palantir, or the New York Times and Congress, are in cahoots with each other. It's like, hey, let's publish a fake story about them. Let's get Congress to use that story as evidence to write a letter demanding more information. And then let's break the news that Congress is asking Palantir for a letter based on the accusations that we made in our article in the first place. I mean, at this point, it's becoming a joke. It is just becoming a joke at this point. And I think the story was kind of dying out over the past couple of days because of all the Israel-Iran stuff, and people started kind of moving on from it. And now these 10 members of Congress, which I don't know who these members of Congress are because we don't have the letter yet. I would imagine these members of Congress are not like, I think if you're actually doing something in Congress and trying to get bills passed, you're not reading the New York Times and then sending a letter to Palantir to try to get more information on technical literature and architecture that you probably don't even know about. I mean, I would really beg to differ that anyone who signed this letter, and we'll find out who published the letter soon, knows what an ontology is. And again, it's just like, you don't have to be, the smartest software engineer in the world, but if you don't know what an ontology is, if you don't know the guardrails and access controls that are used to create that ontology and how it collaborates with the DoD, the government, et cetera, it's very hard for you to say that Palantir is creating a master surveillance database because you don't even know any part at a high level what the architecture of Palantir software looks like, which is what Palantir's been saying for the past couple of weeks. They're like, dude, like if you actually study our software, that's just not how it works. This is a fundamental misunderstanding. It's like saying AWS is controlling all the government data because the IRS might have their cloud computing tax records on inside of S3 servers. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And so I am very curious who published this letter and what Congress people actually are going after Palantir out of all things. Out of all the things we got going on right now, they're using the New York Times as their source to want to go after Palantir. I'm very curious to see who are these 10 Congress people that published the letter. And once I find out, I will let you guys know. But yeah, that's the update going on with Palantir. One last quick thing on Palantir right here. OpenAI won a $200 million U.S. defense contract. So here's the beauty of capitalism. Here's the beauty of capitalism. In capitalism, you have to compete. OpenAI, the Defense Department, has awarded a 1-year, $200 million contract for OpenAI for the use of its AI models. Most of the work will take place in Washington, D.C. In December, OpenAI announced a partnership with the defense tech startup Anduril to deploy advanced AI systems for national security missions. Now, the elephant in the room that I'm assuming everyone's thinking about as soon as they see this headline is, wait a second, is this bad for Palantir? Here's what William Blair said today. After the market closed, the Chief Digital and Artificial Intelligence Office, the CDAO, announced that it awarded OpenAI a $200 million 1-year program project. This contract is one of the largest Department of Defense contracts given to a software provider when measured by annual contract value, as the duration is only for 1 year. For context, Palantir's largest overall contract is its Maven Smart System program, which we estimate currently is an annual recurring revenue run rate of $210 million. Assuming OpenAI develops a successful prototype, it may be given a long-term billion-dollar contract. So there's two pieces of analysis here. Number one, yeah, competition's here for Palantir. I mean, there's just like, you can't deny it. OpenAI getting this contract over Palantir. Yeah, this is the nature of competition. You are going to have to be able to compete with the best software companies in the world. And in this case, Palantir did not get this $200 million contract. OpenAI got it. And so it's one of those things where it's like, this could be a threat in the future. Who knows? If OpenAI does a really good job and they get a lot of contracts that Palantir should be getting, yes, this absolutely can be a threat to Palantir. And this is something that everyone should take seriously. However, my second piece of analysis here is I think regardless of them getting this contract, there is no way that the DoD was going to give every single contract they had to Palantir. It's just not possible, right? Like in and of itself, the DoD doesn't want to be beholden to one supplier. And already across the entire DoD with Project Maven, they already are beholden to Palantir aggressively, right? In terms of just like how many different systems they have, how many different users they have, how many different departments and agencies that are using Palantir, Department of Defense, Pentagon, etc. So from that perspective, I wasn't really worried when I saw that headline, because you on like the gut reaction is like, oh, Palantir missed this contract. The subtext of this is we don't even know if this contract was for like an AIP system, was for like a particular way that Palantir could be working with the DoD, or if it was for uniquely foundation models, which OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini, et cetera, could be providing. It seems more bearish for the other language providers versus Palantir, because again, Palantir works with any of the language providers. So it doesn't necessarily seem like Palantir was directly competing for this. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. You know, we'll find out in the future. But number two, it's like, look, the DoD is not going to give every contract to Palantir, and they don't want to be beholden just to Palantir. They want to have a diversified set of vendors that are ultimately going to be procuring AI software, AI language models, et cetera. So from that perspective, I don't know. I didn't think it was like super, super bearish for Palantir, but I can understand how the headline screams bearish. I just think at the end of the day, Palantir's already gotten so many. I think it was, you know, $1.4 billion year to date of contracts from the government. They're not going to get every single contract. And so it's not the most bearish thing to me from here. So that's what we got in the context of Palantir. Palantir right here, 142 in the pre-markets. Robinhood 75.92. Vlad just posted a video. Again, they are doing a demo today. Let's pull up this video right here, and I'll be streaming that demo later today. It's going to be at 12 p.m. Eastern. Here's the demo, or here's the video they just posted.
Hey, Gina.
Yeah.
I've been thinking, should we launch and for our advanced options traders?
Definitely. Let's do it.
Is it time?
It's time.
All right, there you go. Live demos mobilized today at 12 p.m. Eastern. I think the coolest thing about this is, again, they're doing it like Robinhood. Every month you're getting something new from Robinhood. That's the coolest thing about this. I had a feeling it was going to be for active traders. Based on that video. It seems like it's definitely going to be for active traders. And so Legend, hopefully we'll be getting some updates, and we'll see what they produce later today. It'll be exciting. Oh, speaking of Robinhood, real quick, they did get a price target upgrade to $80 from Mizuho. Is it 80? Yeah, 80, from 65 to 80. So Mizuho, Dan Dolev, our boy, he's been covering this story for a long time. He said, updating our model and price target following solid May results. Better than expected monthly metrics are driving our 2Q 2025 revenue and adjusted EBITDA estimates higher. What are the upcoming catalysts? The Robinhood crypto event with a particular focus on tokenizing real world assets. And then he said, we believe Robinhood deserves a premium to other fintechs, given that one, it has proven its ability to grow rapidly. Two, it can tap into a $600 billion TAM. And they currently only tapped into less than 1% of that. And then three, they have new products and geographies they can expand to. Our price target is raised to 85 from 65. We reiterate our outperform. Robinhood holding on to $65, which is not too bad. And there you go. Continuing to get some more momentum. AMD in the pre-markets right here is up about, wow, AMD up another 2%. Not bad. AMD up another 2%. AWS just announced a new CPU chip. Okay, let's see. Amazon right here is slightly flat. Meta right here is slightly flat. It was up to 700 yesterday based on that WhatsApp monetization. Nvidia is slightly flat as well, down about 0.14, but AMD was up 9% yesterday, continuing the momentum. 128.84 for AMD, up about 2% right now. Maybe that's why AWS was unfollowing all those big data accounts over the weekend, because they were coming out with a new chip, and Yeah, there you go. Oh, so part of the reason AMD was up yesterday is because of that AWS chip. So AMD shares jumped 8% yesterday on reports of an AWS partnership announcement. Obviously, the Lisa Su event on Thursday was a catalyst for them as well. But it looks like part of this is because AWS is not only coming out with the new CPU chip, but it could be in partnership with the AMD, which is why we're getting some of that momentum. Yeah, it's good for my ETF. Exactly. Dude, you guys have been pretty awesome with like putting out stuff for the ETF. Like this one guy made a website yesterday. He vibe coded a website. For those that don't know vibe coding, it's like just like telling an AI prompt to like design something, which begs the question, you know, how many people are going to be able to do this stuff in the future? And look at this. Look at this right here. This is incredible. Stock portfolio challenge. Amit, Steve, Matt, Chris, Tanner. He has our profile pictures, everything. I'm my best stock has been AMD so far. I'm up 1.72%. Steve is up 1%. His best stock is HIMS. Matt's up 1.75. His best stock is ASTS. Chris is up 0.06%. His best stock is TWO, Take Two, and Tanner's up 2.4. So Tanner's up the most out of everybody, 2.14. His best stock is Coinbase. Has all the positions. Is really cool, dude. You guys have been awesome with this. Really, really cool. So we will be able to keep up. You know, people were like, "Hey, how are we going to keep update?" Dude, you guys have. Someone sent me another Google sheet yesterday. We will keep update every day. Like literally every day, we will be able to see who's in first place and who's in last place. So for the next 365 days, you guys will know exactly who's going to be winning. Here's the link to it. I put it right here in the chat. Here's the link. It's super cool, bro. Super, super freaking cool. So. Arnie says, Hood knows how to keep attention, quintessential in today's world. It is an attention economy. You need to learn how to get people's attention. And Robinhood has been kind of the best at keeping people's attention as well. So I would agree with that. Let's get an update on Israel Iran. We got 7 minutes until the market opens, and then we will keep going from there.
Ready to talk, though publicly, that's not what we hear from Iran. It's not what we hear from Israel. And so I think, you know, what we've heard from a lot of the experts we've talked to in the last 24 hours is that this is going to go on for a while. So maybe that's what's causing oil prices to go back up today. But again, you know, still energy infrastructure hasn't been touched yet in terms of bombings by Israel on Iran, and Strait of Hormuz is still open. Maybe it's tense, but it's flowing.
Plus, you've got an OPEC Plus meeting coming up on July 6th. So that could be an additional supply if needed. But Sarah's right. Straits of Hormuz not touched, David. And they do appear, the IDF, to be avoiding any kind of export terminals or oil infrastructure.
Yeah, listen, we'll see what President Trump decides in terms of, again, the understanding I have, and I think is widely understood, is if in fact you were to truly eliminate their ability to enrich uranium, you'd have to do it in the one area, which is that they have it buried in a mountain.
Fordo.
Therefore, you'd have to have bunker busting munitions or these massive ordnance bombs that were developed in the early aughts. In part,
we'll get back to that in a second. Here's a quick update on that AWS chip we were talking about, and then we'll keep going from there.
These chips are born. This is Annapurna Labs. It used to be once very top secret, but now they're letting, you know, media journalists like me inside. And today they're announcing that their latest Graviton 4 chip, that would be their CPU, is now offering 600 gigabytes per second of networking bandwidth, which would be potentially the largest in the public cloud. If you're confused on what that means, a distinguished engineer at AWS told me that it's Ali Saidi. He said that it's like running 100 CDs per second. That's how quick data is being transferred to and from a particular chip, which really marks a big win in their custom chip strategy against traditional players like Intel and AMD. But the real battle, which a lot of these smart people around me are working on right now, the real battle is about NVIDIA and AI. Recently, AWS did announce that they are going to be deploying hundreds of thousands of their own Trainium 2 chips, which are seen right here, to build the largest AI supercomputer for Anthropic. And you think about it, that was a massive order that it would have traditionally gone to NVIDIA. Here's AWS executive Gadi Hott discussing the difference between NVIDIA chips and AWS. Listen in.
Blackwell is more performant than Trainium 2, but Trainium 2 is still more cost performant than the Blackwell. And we also announced Trainium 3. Trainium 3 is coming up this year, and it's doubling the performance of Trainium 2, and it's going to save energy by 50 additional percent.
Now, again, that doesn't mean Amazon is not going to be procuring NVIDIA chips anymore, but we heard about this Trainium headline like a year ago that they were working on this stuff. And because this is a particular partnership with AMD, that's probably why AMD is up 2% right here and why it was up 8% yesterday as well. 3% or 3 minutes until the market opens. Let's get, again, another quick update on Iran, Israel, and then we will keep going from there. Let me just pull this up real quick. All right, here we go.
Truth Social after he landed about 5 a.m. Eastern time, saying that Iran has not reached out for peace talks in any way. And if they want to negotiate, they know where to find him. He also told reporters he was not in the mood to negotiate. But at the same time, guys, yesterday he was continuing to say that a deal was possible and that he hoped it would happen. So it's not clear there which direction the president will go. We do expect him to be weighing all of his options today in the Situation Room. A U.S. official told NBC News overnight that the president had asked for his national security team to be ready in the Situation Room and be prepared once he landed this morning from Canada. Guys, I'll just add that in the meantime, the G7 continues here. Many other events going on. I'm surrounded by international media whose leaders, of course, are still here in Canada. So many more meetings to come. And I'll note, too, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he did stay behind. So maybe we'll see at least some trade conversations continuing. Guys.
Yeah, Megan, on that note, we were sort of speculating here in terms of the market's decline and what it may be related to. Iran, Israel, or perhaps lack of progress on trade. Anything you're hearing, or, if there was progress in certain areas, whether it was with Canada, obviously, where there was the meeting with Carney, what do we know at this point?
We don't know that there was much progress made at all. After the Canadian meeting, for example, we heard the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, say those were frank discussions, that they weren't always on the same page, suggesting there was still more to be discussed there on the tariff front. The president was also asked on Air Force One about the EU, for example. He said after he met, as you mentioned, with von der Leyen, the European Commission president, yesterday, he said the EU is not yet offering a fair deal. He also spoke about Japan. We don't know that he sat down one-on-one with the Japanese leader, but we know Japanese negotiators were in Washington over the weekend. The president saying overnight that Japan is very tough. So not making it seem likely that a deal is all that close there either. And then the final thing he said on Air Force One on the trade front was he sort of repeated this threat that we've heard, where he says he doesn't have to make a deal. He could simply send a letter to other countries with the tariff threat that he's going to impose, or the tariff rate that he's going to impose. So retaining all of the leverage there, all of that, putting that together, guys, not a lot of progress here on the trade front.
All right, folks, here we go. We got about 20 seconds until the market opens. It is going to be important to see how the broader market decides to react to some of the escalations that have happened and what details we get over the coming, basically, next few hours in terms of details on Trump, Israel, Iran. What is America's stance? What is Iran's stance? Is Israel going to keep fighting back harder? And ultimately what that means for the broader equity markets. Here we go, 9:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market, once again, is open. Wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Robinhood, 76.50. Robinhood just below 77. Just below 77. Absolutely incredible. You do have that green candle right there. It looks like it's about to go green. And it looks like Robinhood wants to stay in the high 70s. There you go. Robinhood 76.70 on the day. Palantir, 141.31. So that one's slightly down from 142 in the pre-markets on Palantir. Tessie, 326. That one's down about 1%. NVIDIA just below 145. It got to 146 yesterday. Right now, 144.89. So let's see if we can get back above 145. SoFi did have a nice little run towards the end of the day yesterday. Just ended below 15 right now at 14.92. So let's see if we can get back above that $15 level for SoFi. Grab, not bad. Up 1.1%, 477 on Grab. Google, 176. That's down about 0.18%, basically flat. Amazon 215. We saw those new chips. That one's basically flat. Meta 702. That's green from yesterday. Salesforce 264. That's slightly green. Elf, that's down 1.3. Where are the solar stocks? Enphase down 23%. Robinhood 77. Robinhood, we did touch 77, folks. Wow. Either the market's really excited about Vlad's event today, that they're live streaming, or that upgrade from Mizuho is getting them excited as well. But again, very high beta to the market. Right now, the market is kind of confused. What's going on with Iran, Israel? What is Trump's stance going to be? And still, Robinhood getting some momentum. So not bad to see for Robinhood right here. Google again at 175, NVIDIA right here, 144.60. Okay, so Enphase was down 20%. How about SolarEdge? That stock, 38%. First Solar, 20%. And Sunrun, 41%. I think the solar ETF is called TAN. Yeah, TAN. That one's down 10%. So again, the reason all the solar stocks are down is because of solar subsidies that are being eliminated in the new spending bill by 2026. That's why all those stocks are getting hit pretty badly. Oscar is up 7%. The Senate rejected the ability to cut massive amounts of Medicare, which is really good for Oscar Health. So that catalyst is actually really good for Oscar. It's bad for solar based on these subsidies going away, but pretty good for Oscar Health. That one's up about 8% right here currently right now. SMCI, that one's flat. Reddit up 7.8%. I think one of you put a headline about Reddit introducing some new AI tools. I'll see if I can pull that up in a second, but it looks like those new AI tools are potentially the reason why the market is excited right here about Reddit. Eli Lilly, 802, Bitcoin, 105. That one's down about 2% on the day. So Bitcoin kind of going the opposite based on geopolitical tensions from gold. Gold is down, but slightly down. Gold is kind of flat on the day, down about 0.12%. Bitcoin is down an entire 1.2%. Let's see what else we got. S&P 500, is that red? S&P is still back to 6,000. S&P right back to 6,000. AMD was up 2% in the pre-markets. AMD still up 1%. Not too bad. Lennar, they had a decent earnings yesterday. They missed on revenue, or they beat on revenue. They missed on EPS, but they did say the guidance of the amount of homes they were going to build for the second quarter, it was slightly in line with expectations. It wasn't even above expectations. It was slightly in line, which in this environment is good enough given that rates have not come down. And, the market knows that's just not the best thing for the housing ecosystem. So Lennar right here up 2.4% off of a relatively decent earnings. Jabil, that one's up 10% right here. So this stock, $21 billion company, manufacturing services, that one is up 10% on the day. Micron's up about 1%. So you got some of the semis that are moving. Redwire down 20%. Okay, so Redwire did a convertible offering yesterday of $200 million. So they diluted shareholders. I mean, stocks tend to fall when you do dilutions. The question is, why are they diluting? And did they need to dilute? I'm not necessarily sure, but their stock was up a lot for this year. So it makes sense that they took advantage of it, but that's why that stock is down about 18% right now. Reddit, goodness, what a move. 11%. Again, Reddit's very high beta. It can go down as quick as it goes up, but when it goes up, it definitely moves. Reddit launched 2 new AI-powered advertising features aimed at helping brands drive greater engagement by tapping user conversations on the platform. The company said it's a Reddit insight powered by community intelligence tool, which will provide real-time insights to marketers for planning campaigns by identifying trends on the platform. It will also provide a feature called conversation summary add-ons, allowing brands to integrate positive user comments directly underneath the ads to show what they think about the ad subject. There you go. That is why Reddit is getting some of the momentum that it's getting on the day. Grab getting some love. Grab right here up 1.3%. Not too bad on Grab. Getting some momentum. BBAI, Big Bear AI, up about 4%. That is green. And TSM, how's that one doing? Palantir right here at 141. TSM flat on the day. All the semis, it looks like, are green to flat. So ASML flat, Micron green, Lam green, Dell green. NVIDIA just went green. That's nice. AMD still up about 1.3%. And then TSM, Qualcomm, ON, and Marvell are slightly down on the day. Let's look at the Brick Gang ETF. We are down across the board. Tesla's down, Hood's down, Palantir's down, JP Morgan's down, AMD's up, Grab's up, Nebius is down about 2%, Apple's down 1%, Visa slightly flat, and then Duolingo down about 0.5% currently right now. Quantum names are all down. Basically flat. Quantum computing down about 5%. They were up 20% yesterday. IONQ down about 2%. Rigetti down about 1% right now. The VIX is over 20. The VIX Vapor Rub is over 20 currently right now. For those that don't get that, yesterday my dad, he was feeling a little sick. His nose was stuffy. He asked me to go get him some VIX, and I was like, "Oh no, it's down 2%." He's like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "The VIX is down 2%." He's like, "Dude, what the hell are you talking about?" I was like, "The VIX. You said about the VIX is down 2%." He's like, "No, I need like VIX Vapor Rub." I was like, "I am an idiot. I'm a literal junkie for this freaking stock market." Couldn't believe that I answered him like that, bro. I couldn't believe it. Reddit 142. Reddit really getting some love right here. 12% on the day. My goodness, dude. 12% on the day. Elon Musk owned XAI is reportedly in talks to raise $4.3 billion in equity funding. Okay, so that's interesting because Elon already raised a crap ton of money like 2 months ago. They raised like 15 billion. So it looks like they're getting ready to raise some more money. These NVIDIA chips are expensive, so makes sense. All right, so 4.3 billion for Elon and XAI. Yeah, Bloomberg saying that right now Elon Musk owned XAI is reportedly in talks to raise 4.3 billion in equity funding. Also last night, for anyone that missed this news, OpenAI, as per the information, wants Microsoft to have a 33% stake in a reshaped quote unquote unit in exchange for foregoing future rights to its profits. As per the information, it's looking pretty obvious that Sam Altman does not want to play with Satya Nadella anymore. They used them to get up and running back in 2022. They now realize they're going to be a multi-trillion-dollar company, which I believe OpenAI will become. And they're basically saying, hey, we don't want you to have access to 50% of us for the rest of the future. And I don't know if Nadella is going to put up with that. I don't think Bill Gates would have put up with that. So this is going to be an interesting saga to see how it plays out. But you do have Sam Altman saying, hey, you guys can get a third of some profits in this other structured unit, but the actual company, we want to be on our own and we don't want to deal with you guys. Which is classic Sam Altman. I mean, this is who he is. I mean, we've seen him do this many times, especially with Elon Musk. So the question is just going to be if Nadella lets him get away with that and how the relationship is going to form in the future. Reddit right here up 11.7%. AMD back to 128. MicroStrategy down 2% because Bitcoin's down. Enphase right here down 27%, dude. My goodness. My goodness. Was anyone in solar? Put in the chat. Don't be ashamed to admit it. I've been in stocks that get hit badly. Put in the chat if you were in the solar names at all. Bart, thank you for the 60 euros. Appreciate it. Should I invest in the IVES ETF? Bart from Belgium. So I've looked at the IVES ETF. Me and Steve looked at it and we talked about it. I think it just reached 100 million AUM. So it did get some inflows. My thoughts on this are it's just long a bunch of AI names. It's kind of like the NASDAQ, but more focused on AI. So the question is, do you want to pay an expense ratio on someone who's basically long Palantir, Amazon, Meta, Apple, etc., or do you just buy the QQQ, right? So like, and quite frankly, the QQQ has more dynamic rebalancing. Now you do get some stocks that you don't probably care about because it's not AI oriented. So it's up to you on, do you think the expense ratio is worth buying the 30 names that Dan Ives is saying is like the future of AI? I think they're really good names. I don't think they're bad names. It's just a question of, do you want to go that route or do you want to just buy the broader QQQ in general? Okay, let's see. Merv has 1 share of Enphase. Chris has some First Solar. Jim has 200 Enphase. The reason Enphase is down again is because they're losing their solar subsidy in the new bill for 2026, and that's why they're getting hit right here. CoreWeave is up another 1.2%. Where's Circle? Circle is up another 7%. My goodness. Tanner, Roy, and I, for a good 30 minutes yesterday, talked about stablecoins on the podcast that we did last night. So anyone can check that out. It's on my channel. And I think they broke down stablecoins in depth. However, they both agreed Circle probably doesn't deserve to be worth 35 billion freaking dollars. But nonetheless, the market believes they should be worth that much. Wicked has about 30 shares of Enphase. All right, so I would say there's about 15 of you guys in the chat right here that have a little bit of Enphase. Or at least some solar. Again, it's just one of those things that got caught in the wrong headwind in terms of all the different dynamics going on. I mean, you have Trump, who's drill baby drill. You have demand for oil that's spiking up as oil prices come down, which means demand for solar comes down. And then you generally have a hardware business that makes microinverters, which did have pretty good margins when things were really good. But when rates went up as fast as they went up, financing solar also went up in terms of the cost. And since 2023, the company just did not have a path to be able to move forward and survive in this environment. Now, they're not going to go bankrupt, in my opinion, but as a stock, they just haven't been the best stock. And people are asking, should you buy the dip? I don't know what the tailwind is for Enphase over this administration for the next 4 years. So is it cheap? Yeah. Of course it's cheap, but again, these stocks are cheap for a reason. And the reason it's cheap is because the market's like, hey, where is the growth coming from if you don't even have solar subsidies? What is the incentive going to be for regular people on their homes to talk to a commercial or to a residential solar salesman for 2 hours and actually go through the process of establishing it? It's just hard to see that vision going into the next couple of years. Reddit, 15% on the day. Congrats to those in Reddit. 145, the covered call premiums. If you do have 100 shares of this, are going to be pretty juicy today, especially because Reddit is super high beta. So you got this at 145 currently right now. Now, does this deserve to be up 15% just because they released some new AI tool for advertisers? I think the numbers are going to show us, because like that's not necessarily driving more traffic to Reddit's business or dealing with the internal problem that has the natural overhang on the stock, which is that Google search might be declining, which means Reddit search could be declining as well. But it does mean advertisers could maybe get more bang for the buck, which could increase engagement on the platform with advertisers and obviously top line revenue as well. So it's one of those things where the narrative makes sense. The question is, does it show up in the numbers? Because I think that's what the street's going to be looking for, to see if it can compensate for the lack of traffic that might be going into Reddit as well. Market cap on Reddit, I believe, is what, 30 billion? Reddit market cap, 26 billion, just under 30. See, Circle is worth more than Reddit. And Circle, again, they make their money off treasury income. And when rates come down, all that juicy treasury income is like, they're not going to be making that much interest eventually when we cut rates towards the end of the year. So it is very confusing why the street's piling into Circle over some of these other names. Palantir below 140. Palantir down 1.2%. Palantir below 140. Amazon right here is green on the day. There you go, 216. Amazon is green. And then some of these other energy plays, CEG, that one's green on the day. How about VRT and VST? VRT, that's up 2% on the day. And then VST, these are the data center energy plays. They are also up on the day. All right, so not too bad. I mean, as we get into this market open with all the uncertainty that we've got going on geopolitically, broader markets, I mean, you got Tesla down about 2% right here. Nvidia's down a little bit, but the broader market's not really getting hit that bad. Even the S&P is still above 6,000, down 0.5%, but still above 6,000 right here. We did have a Tesla update in China. They had a really good week for insurance registrations. 15,500, best week of Q2 2025. 15,500, best week of Q2 2025. So China looks like it's doing okay for Tesla. Now, Wells Fargo reiterated their sell, and they said, hey, it's going to be a really bad quarter for Q2. And anyone denying that is essentially, their note was like, it's a fantasy. Like, it's going to be a disgusting quarter. And so I agree. Q2 is going to suck. Like, we know Q2 is going to suck. The question is just how bad is it going to suck? Meta, Oppenheimer said they think they're going to raise their capex from 62 to 74 billion to 68 to 85 billion. So you got the street thinking that Meta, they raised the price target to 775, S&P right there below 6,000. You got the street thinking that Meta is really going to ramp up the capex. That's good for NVIDIA. And even though that's bad for Meta's margins, the ROI that the street thinks they can get on that in the context of AI is very important. Now, if you're wondering why T-Mobile is down, SoftBank sold about 5 billion of their T-Mobile. So that's why T-Mobile is down 4% on the day. Essentially, they sold in a statement, they said, to fund their AI initiatives. So they're taking that money from T-Mobile and they're putting it into AI startups, maybe even OpenAI. So that's why T-Mobile is down about 4% of the day. Where's Arrow? IPO from Friday, up 4%. That one's still holding on to 30, still up 300% for the year. HIMS is down 4%. All right, high beta stocks are getting hit. Where's AppLovin? I bet it's down. AppLovin's down 2%. Tessie, we already know, is down 2.4, 321. What else is high beta? Palantir below 140, not aggressive, but still down 1.6. Robinhood was at 77. That's down almost 2%. All right, you're starting to see a little bit of that market from a growth perspective get hit, but Reddit is still up 15%. So Reddit's usually in that same bucket. Well, now it's up 13. So you got a little bit of a red candle on Reddit. Yeah, there you go. There's that little bit of red candle. Let's see if that continues. MicroStrategy right here, 375. That one's also down 2%. Where is Microsoft, which hit all-time highs on Monday, 474. That one's down from 480. Palo Alto Network, 175. And then CrowdStrike is at a 460. CrowdStrike's at 477. So CrowdStrike still holding on. AMD is green. AMD in the midst of everything holds on to its green. Kevin Johnson, thank you for becoming a channel member. Appreciate it, Kevin Johnson. Thank you for being here. And thank you for becoming a channel member. Take a look at MP. MP, again, this one trades on rare earth mineral headlines. This one's up 2.7% on the day. Andrew, thanks for the super chat. One thing that's important about the rare earth minerals is how much we rely on them. So Ford came out, or there was an article that was published on Ford today, and it has to do with their EVs as well. So This right here, Ford continues to struggle to obtain rare earth magnet supplies that are essential to car production and have already forced a temporary shutdown of one of its factories. So this article was published a couple days ago, essentially saying, hey, based on this whole China trade war that's going on, until we get a real conclusion on rare earth minerals, which Trump has said we've gotten to that conclusion, but we haven't really seen anything in writing yet. That could have an impact on auto manufacturers as well, because they rely on those to build their cars. And so far, it's shutting down production of a factory until they get more clarity on these rare earth magnets. Palantir right here at 140, Tesla right here at 322, NVIDIA 144. NVIDIA not really feeling that much of a hit, and then Robinhood 75.70 currently right now. Nebius, this one just below $50. Let's see if there's any other updates in Israel, Iran. Let's see what's going on from here. Iran just closed their stock market until Sunday. There you go. Israel. Oh, here we go. Israeli military says it completed a wave of attacks in Western Iran a short time ago. 15 minutes ago, that headline came out. 15 minutes ago. Israeli military says it completed a wave of attacks in Western Iran a short time ago. And then Iran 9 minutes ago, stock market will remain closed until Sunday. Okay, so that could also explain the reason why we saw some of these growth stocks just take a hit. S&P right back above 6,000. We should probably be getting a lot of updates in the coming hours on these attacks and what it means in Western Iran. Qatar Energy has instructed ships to remain outside the Gulf until the day before loading. Otherwise, wait outside the Straits of Hormuz. Okay, so you've got different updates now in the context of the shipping routes that some of these stocks are, or some of these ships ultimately have to go through. XLE, the energy ETF, that one is up on the day. I didn't even check oil prices. Oil up 2%. It was down 2% yesterday, so it's basically getting that 2% back today, and it's up about 15% from the initial wave of attacks back on Friday. Yeah, I didn't know Iran has a stock market either. Israel has a stock market. Iran has a stock market. Obviously, we're also obsessed with, at least I'm obsessed with the U.S. stock market because that's what I invest in. I know a lot of you guys invest in European stock markets as well, but the most I know about when it comes to global stock markets is the U.S. and Europe, and I know a little bit about India. I don't know anything about the Canadian markets. I know very little about the Middle Eastern markets. I know nothing about the Israeli markets. But yeah, there's a lot of, and obviously China, but I don't really buy Chinese stocks, but they have a big market as well. So it does seem like they are deciding to stop trading. I wonder what companies, what are the major public companies I'm going to look that up today. What are the major public companies in Iran? Because I can't name any of them off the top of my head at all. Every country does have a stock market, but that doesn't mean every country has a dynamic stock market that has tons of liquidity and people that are willing to, engage in it meaningfully. I mean, you got to have really good companies to invest in as well. Can anyone name like a big Iranian company? Obviously, it's my ignorance because I don't study the region that much, but I've never heard of a massive Iranian public company. Only Shopify counts in Canada. Oh my gosh. The Israeli TA35 index was the best index last year worldwide. I think the index is up too ever since this conflict started. Like it's been doing well, to be honest. Yeah, year to date, it's up 15%, TA35. Over the past year, it's up 37%. Past 5 days, it's still up 1%. And today it's up 0.24. So this one has not been doing too bad from the Israeli perspective. Palantir right here, 140, Tesla 323. Tesla really is getting hit the hardest out of some of these growth stocks, trying to recover a little bit from 321, but 323 currently right now. Okay, let's do a poll right here in the chat because I'm very curious what you guys think about this. Let's see what you guys say right here. So here's the question. Simple question. Yes or no answer. Does the U.S. take an offensive position and strike Iran / boots on the ground in this war? Yes or no? Do you think at some point, let's call it over the next 6 months, let's give it a timeline, that the United States will take an offensive position, not defensive, not deterrence, not supplying weapons, but legitimately using our military to hit back against Iran via either airstrikes or boots on the ground. Very curious what people think. My gut feeling is no, but based on everything Trump's been posting for the past 24 hours, basically saying, hey, they should have signed the deal. They're not signing the deal. Their time has come. Leaving G7 early to deal with this in the Situation Room. It feels like this is escalating to the point where the U.S. is going to get involved to some extent. Or Trump is engaging in some of the best negotiating he's ever done in his life to try to calm this all down. And we know that Israel just attacked, based on the headline 15 minutes ago, in Western Iran. So the question now becomes, does Iran fight back towards that? And then does the U.S. get involved from it as well? 67% say no. 70-30. 70-30 say no. That sounds like a call sheet question. Dude, the fact that in this new era we're freaking debating on this stuff is kind of crazy, bro. But it's true. Like, it's true. Like, the look at this. The top poll in call sheet. New U.S.-Iran nuclear deal this year. Dude, these guys are just popping out these prediction markets every other day based on, what's going on geopolitically. Airstrikes, yes. Boots on the ground, no way. That's kind of what I'm thinking too. Remember, we did have airstrikes back in April of Trump's first term in 2017. I remember I was in college when they launched airstrikes. I think it was on Syria. I'm pretty sure it was on Syria in 2017. I remember I was in my college dorm room and I see the headline. It was April 2017. And I was like, holy crap. Did he just launch airstrikes? And that was the first time Trump ever really used military force. I feel like that's what they would do. But again, what would be the reason to do that? Like, the reason to do that, if Israel's already doing it, then the question is, why would the United States continue to bombard them if Israel's already doing a significant amount of damage? And the only argument would be that they think Iran is a real threat, that it has, like, they're going for a regime change. Like, it has to be something way more dramatic than, their nuclear facilities. And that's the broader thing I think the market doesn't have an answer to, that none of us have an answer to right now. And I think, we're obviously trying to figure that out. Where's Reddit? Reddit back up to 13%. It was up 15, down from 145 to 142, but still green at 142 right now. Yes, 70% of you say no. Okay, so here's a better question. Would you want the U.S. to take an offensive position in this war? And, we have an international audience here. Obviously, we have a lot of Americans that probably feel a certain way, but I would also like to know from an international perspective, how would you guys feel if the U.S. said, let's get into this? I think the unequivocal answer, 80-20. Dude, I think the answer is no. Like, I don't think we want to fight another war in the Middle East. I personally don't think that would be the best idea. Now, granted, I'm open to hearing new intel. I'm open to hearing new ideas. I'm not just like, no, there's no way we could do this. Like, I want to get all the information. But I also, I was young when the Iraq war happened, but as I grew up, I learned a lot more about it. A lot of you guys were a lot older, and some of you guys probably vehemently opposed it because you knew that the only reason we were going in was for everything outside of weapons of mass destruction. If that's another situation this time, this is going to be a decade-long war that's not going to be resulting in anything meaningful. And it's going to waste a lot of money. It's going to waste a lot of lives. And if we don't have some magic democracy in Iran that can, vote for its citizens and guarantee individual rights, which TLDR, we're not going to have that happen. We tried that many times in the Middle East. It doesn't work. Democracy is just like, it's not compatible with some of the religious laws they have. It's just not a thing. It's going to be hard to imagine we do that in Iran. So I personally would be against it, but over the coming weeks, we'll get some more details and see how this plays out. Tesla right here, still down about 2%. Palantir back to 140, kind of holding on that 140 range. Apple right here, 196. SMCI 43.33. Reddit now getting a little weaker. Some of those red candles heating up. 141. If it can hold 10%, I think that would be good. And then CoreWeave still up 2% on the day. Still up 2% on the day. There have been many reports from Iranian independent media that and I don't know if this is the general opinion of people in Iran, right? Like, this is just, this is, we're looking at various different reports coming from different news outlets, but there are some reports saying, hey, Iran's been waiting for this because the people are so oppressed that they've been waiting for some type of liberation, whether it's Israel or the United States, to come in and get rid of this regime. Now, again, I think that is not conclusive of the entire country. I think that can obviously be spinned in a narrative that suits the United States and Israel to say they're saving the Iranian citizens. And although there are some people that I think desperately do want a different regime, I don't think they want an entire war to get that different regime. And so I think there's a lot of perspectives here, but I think even the Iranian citizens that do want more freedoms probably don't want millions of people to have to die just to get those freedoms at the behest of the United States and Israel. And the question is just how this plays out. Wow, look at CoreWeave, dude. CoreWeave is getting a big boost. Went from 1.5 to 3% just now. CoreWeave getting some momentum. Is Nebius moving as well? Nebius still red on the day. CoreWeave is green. Palantir 140 and NVIDIA 144.83. Let me see if I can find the NVIDIA 145 resistance and see how many shares are waiting there. Palantir 140.79. 145, 31,000 shares on NVIDIA. 35,000 shares on NVIDIA. Circle, is that one still moving? Circle, still up 7%. It's not stopping. Apple right here, 196. Amazon, 217. Guess these Tranium chips. Street likes it. Grab right here, 476. SoFi, 1473. Roblox is at $100 today. Nubank, 1229. In the broader market, S&P still holding just above that 6,000 range. Amit, are you buying Oscar? I don't know enough about this yet. I don't know enough. I'm going to try to do a deep dive. Hopefully on Thursday when the market's closed, we'll do that deep dive. Honestly, I just don't know enough about the guy. Dude, healthcare I tend to stay away from. I just don't understand it as an industry that well. And like biotech, healthcare, all that stuff. HIMSS is the only one I really got into just because of their growth. But I want to do a deep dive and see if there's anything really compelling here. Because I know the numbers are, and the cash on the balance sheet, like all of that is amazing. The biggest risk was the ACA, but if the Senate's, getting rid of some of this spending cut on healthcare or on Medicaid, that could be a pretty big tailwind. AMD 130 resistance on AMD. We hit 129.80 today. 130 has 174,000 shares. 174,000 shares. So that would be the number we need to get above that 130 level. UNH is down. UNH it was at 320 last week. It's had a nice little decline. I'm not sure exactly why. I feel like the healthcare stuff yesterday, I know it's bullish for Oscar, but theoretically, I feel like it should have been bullish for UNH as well, but apparently not. And he says just bought 75.1278 shares of Hood. I know it was to round out. I know it's weird, but it was to round out my overall position. I did that yesterday with Palantir. I needed 8 shares to round out the position. So I bought it at 140. Dude, those shares I bought before earnings at 125, as much as it felt like those shares would not, do that well, because I was buying it at 125. Here you go. We're up $15 on those shares, 141. And Palantir continues to maintain its momentum. Where's Enphase? Enphase still getting hits. SolarEdge still down 34%, a little bit of a green candle. Enphase was down almost 27%. Enphase now down 23%. So you got a little bit of recovery right there. But Enphase still down on the days. Oscar still moving. That was up 7%. Oscar now up 8.3%. Oscar's getting some momentum. Tessie 141 or Tessie 323, then Palantir 141 here right now. These were the top 20 stocks that were traded yesterday in the options market. Oh, by the way, Kathy bought some NVIDIA. Kathy bought 128,000 shares of NVIDIA. So even Kathy, who sold NVIDIA in 2022, can't deny that NVIDIA is doing pretty well. She actually made a good move. She sold a ton of Circle. I think she bought like 4 million shares for the IPO, and she sold like 500,000 yesterday. That's a good move, bro. Circle's up 500%. I don't hate that. Like, she's taking some good profits there. So sold some Circle, bought NVIDIA, and then these were the top stocks that were traded yesterday. AMD had 1.4 million contracts. AMD is usually not in the top 2, but AMD got there yesterday. NVIDIA 2.2, Tesla 1.4, Apple 940,000, Palantir 880,000, Amazon 493,000. And then towards the end of the list, you have Google at 235, Microsoft 241, Robinhood and SoFi at 331, Robinhood at 289, Oracle at 259, and then Meta at 475,000. By the way, Oracle, let's take a look at that. Palantir is about to go green. Palantir's 2 cents away. There you go. Palantir goes green. Palantir goes green. Oracle 215, up another 2%. Oracle holding on to that 2%. Oracle's been a winner. Oracle now year to date, and I had a chance to pick this in my draft, but I missed this one. Oracle year to date is up 30%, 29.6%. Where's Celsius, by the way? Celsius, we had 40 yesterday, 43.6 today. All right. Dude, like we just got reports that Israel confirmed they completed attacks in Western Iran, and markets are, kind of recovering right here. We had a little bit of some red candles on some of these growth names. Robinhood trying to get back to 76. No other updates from Israel Iran, but about 20 minutes ago, Israeli military says it completed its wave of attacks in Western Iran. And that's the latest update we have right there. SBET, how's that one doing? That one, again, they did dilution. SharpLink Gaming, that one's still down 5% of the day. We're down 69% last Friday as well. Palantir is green. Yep, Palantir goes green. Again, New York Times reported today that Palantir got a letter from 10 congressmen. I am so curious to see who signed this letter. Who do you think signed this letter? Put in the chat. What congressperson, senator or representative, signed this letter? 10 of them. Who do you think is like the main author of the letter? I don't think it's Bernie Sanders. It's not Marjorie Taylor Greene. She owns Palantir. It's definitely not her. But I wonder who signed this letter. I think we'll find out soon once the letter is public. Palantir Robinhood back to 76, Palantir 141. And I'm just so curious who in Congress is spending their time reading the New York Times and thinking that this is what they got elected to do. I'm just very curious, dude. Very, very curious. Also, Elon was at a conference yesterday, and he said DC was a nice side quest. I'm ready to get back to the main quest. So he was at the YC event yesterday, and this is what he said on Doge. He said, imagine you're cleaning a beach which has a few needles, trash, and is dirty, and there's a 1,000-foot tsunami, which is AI, that's about to hit. You're not going to focus on cleaning the beach. So a totally different tone from Elon right here. Elon's basically like, hey, I was messing around with this Doge thing, and I'm back to normal. And then he said, I'm glad to be back to technology. So it seems like he's focused. AOC, dude, I feel like AOC could be behind it. AOC and Elizabeth Warren. I mean, could you imagine if it's co-signed by AOC and Elizabeth freaking Warren? Could you imagine that? Like, what would the reaction be if it's AOC and Elizabeth Warren who are now trying to, get Karp to go to some congressional testimony or something to learn more about Palantir? Oh, what I love to, dude, if I was Karp, he probably can't do this, but if I was Karp and I was having a congressional testimony, I would straight up ask AOC, like, hey, do you know what an ontology is? Like, because AOC, to her credit, she's good at cross-examination. She's done pretty good at cross-examination because for some reason, all these people she cross-examines are so intimidated by her. I don't know if it's because the way she asked the question, she has a good strategy when she goes for like a gotcha question. So she is good at that. But these people get so intimidated every time. And if I was Karp, bro, I would go to town. I would just straight up be like, and the problem is you can't do this when you're a CEO because, these Congress people at the end of the day, they control funding, all this stuff, and you want to have good relationships with them. That's why they're always so respectful. But like, if I was Sundar or Zucks and I'm in a testimony, I'll just be like, yo, you're an idiot. Like, you're stupid. Like, how did you get elected? Like, you don't know the first thing about anything. Now, you can't say that. So I would try to intellectually imply that you genuinely are not a smart human being for asking these types of questions. But it feels like this is an AOC thing, an AOC or a Warren thing. I don't think it's Sanders. I think Bernie is not focused on this. I think Bernie's more focused. Like, say what you want about Bernie. I think he's more focused on like real issues and the working class than a clickbait article by the New York Times. Any congressman that's focused on that to me is like where are your like you're doing it for media. There's no way in the busy list of agenda items you have does Palantir make a number one list or make number one on that list to be able to send an entire letter to the company to learn more about this stuff. If you're actually fighting for working people's rights, as AOC or Warren would say. Bernie, even if he doesn't get a lot of stuff done, he's at least out there talking about the stuff that he thinks matters. Whereas some of these other people, I don't know. I don't know if they necessarily care as much or if they just want more attention. And granted, AOC is probably going to run for president in 2028. So positioning herself in this way, I mean, she could be seeing all the media attention around Palantir and saying, holy crap, I could really get in the crosshairs of this, get a lot of attention, get a lot of people to see, like, I'm standing up for the little guy that's being surveilled by this evil company. And boom, she could, to some extent, solidify her path to launch the campaign in about a year. Because by 2026, we will know who's running for the Democratic nomination. It's either going to be Newsom or AOC, in my opinion. And I have a feeling AOC is going to have a really good shot. And so then we're gonna, see what route she goes from there. Where's Hims? Is Hims still down 4%? Hims is down 2%. And by the way, this is not just a Democratic thing. The Republicans, whenever they try to do this subpoena and they try to talk to politicians, I mean, like, wasn't it a Republican who asked Zuckerberg, how do they make money? And he was like, Senator, we run ads. Like, it's all politicians. It's not just Democrats. It's all of them. None of them really understand how the world works. They definitely don't understand how technology works. And quite frankly, a lot of them are just, they're a lot older and they didn't take the time to research this stuff. And we don't really have these age limits or anything in Congress. So, they're going to ask these stupid questions. And unfortunately, that might influence the way they think about regulation as well. Yeah, the Zuck hearing in 2018. I remember I was in college listening to Senator, we sell ads. And I was like, really? We have elected officials that don't know how Facebook makes money? Like, you don't have to know all the ins and outs about their advertising mechanisms and the frameworks by which they deploy lookalike audiences, which is, if you've ever done Facebook ads, that's like one of their key ways that they retarget people. But like, you need to know they run ads to make money. Like, that's kind of like the first thing you should know about Facebook. Palantir right here, 141, Robin at 75. I think we have some macro data. Yep, we have home builder sentiment. Let's take a look at that. We had Lennar earnings yesterday, and then we'll keep going from there.
For June. And for that, we head east to Diana Olick. Diana?
Well, Rick, home builder sentiment in June dropped 2 points from May to 32 on the NAHB index. The street was actually looking for a slight improvement. This index has only seen a lower reading twice since the Great Recession back in 2012. And that was in December of 2022 when mortgage rates first shot up from those pandemic record lows, and in April 2020 at the very start of the pandemic. Now, the builders cite high mortgage rates, tariffs, and overall economic uncertainty. Of the index's three components, current sales conditions fell 2 points to 35. Sales expectations in the next 6 months dropped 2 points to 40. And buyer traffic fell 2 points to 21. That is the lowest reading on that since the end of 2023. As a result, builders are cutting prices. 37% in the June survey said they did. That's the highest share since NAHB started tracking this 3 years ago. It's up from 34% in May and 29% in April. The average price reduction, 5%. NAHB's chief economist, Rob Dietz, said given current market conditions, NAHB is forecasting a decline in single-family starts for 2025. Regionally, on a 3-month moving average, the South and West were the weakest. And of course, that is, Sarah, where we build the most homes, usually.
I wonder how you put that up against what we got from Lennar today, the home builder, which, as I mentioned, has actually been a winner, even though some of it was soft and they talked about the challenges in the market, like affordability.
Yeah, exactly. But they also lowered prices. You saw the average home price on closings down nearly 9% for Lennar. And that's what we're seeing from the builders as well, as cutting prices, and begs the questions, are they even able to buy down those mortgage rates? Ivy Zellman said last Friday on our air that even when you buy down those rates, a lot of consumers still can't even qualify at the lower rates. So Lennar is seeing that weakness in demand because of affordability.
Okay, thank you, Diana. Diana Olick. Speaking of overall demand, wanted to dive into retail sales a little bit. This is the month for May, and it paints a picture of a softening consumer. The overall headline number slipped 0.9%. That was worse than expected, versus 0.1% the month before. If you look and break it down, you can see it was pretty much lower across the board. Here is what the May number looks like relative to the April number. So total retail sales were lower. If you take out autos, it was also lower, but autos, you can see, was a big drag. We did see a big dip in the month of May for auto sales. And then general merchandise, they're, slightly higher to unchanged. If you break it down a little bit further to see what the biggest losers were on the month in terms of declines of retail sales, gas stations, autos, food services, and drinking places. I highlight this one because this is the only services part of the overall retail sales number, and it saw a decline. And that's important.
And again, broader market's not really caring that much about these retail sales numbers, at least not today. If that becomes a trend over the next coming months, I would imagine they have an issue. But right now, they don't care too much. Grab right here, 42. That's about 2.2% on the day. Palantir 141, that goes green. Hoodie's about to go green. I mean, you got a lot of names that are going green. S&P is very close. It's $1 away from going green, folks. I mean, this, again, just a resilient market. What this means is there's a constant bidder. There's a constant bidder every day on these. You want to call it a dip, 1%, 0.5% dips. Look at the S&P right there, 601.4. Look at that. Look at that green candle. It's just moving. And what it feels like, quite frankly, is these hedge funds that have taken down their short positions down dramatically and that are realizing, they need to gain exposure. So and again, we saw the detail yesterday that retail was selling. So someone's buying. This is a stat that came out yesterday from June 6th to June 12th. Hedge funds are loading up on utility stocks in the fastest pace in 5 years, which is good for the overall equity markets. Obviously, it could be a little bit more of a defensive positioning because if we were to get any level of volatility, defensive names or utilities would do rather well. These are kind of the things that people, just don't cancel. But it does mean that, again, there's still net buying from these funds coming into the markets, and that's what's helping the broader equity markets. S&P 500 now 0.2% away from going green on the day. Still $7 trillion on the sidelines. That's correct. These dips are great for covered calls. I agree. And that's also been constructive in this market as well. Yeah, for Grab, I don't think there's any catalyst. I think there's no like fundamental news. I think eventually this thing is just going to get back closer to like 550, but I think fair value is closer to around 650. But this is dealing with the convertible note fundraising stuff, and the market's kind of trying to figure out what's happening. Well, one thing I can tell you guys about Grab is I'm learning a lot more about Howard Marks. Because he took a position, right? And I really haven't studied the guy. I've studied Druckenmiller. I've studied Buffett. I've not really studied Howard Marks. Apparently, from a little bit of the research I did last night, he's a value investor. And I know he wasn't a tech investor. I know he's definitely not, into like the Mag 7 or anything. And he's never been into like technological paradigm shifts, but I didn't know he was like a straight up value guy. And so it was very interesting to see him buy Grab, because when a value investor is buying a tech company from a value investing philosophy, it makes you think that he thinks there's a lot of upside from an asymmetric perspective. And the other thing that was interesting to hear about him is when this guy buys, he buys and holds. I mean, I think his least amount of holding time is like 4 years. So I think he's going to be in here for a while. And also, he's a credited investor. He's not as big into equities, even though he owns a lot of equities. He manages $4 billion. But he's mainly in the credit markets. So if he's taking a chance on Grab, he's not doing this for them to go to $5 and then sell. I think if anything, we're going to see an increased position in Q2. Probably in about a month and a half, we should get the new 13Gs. And I think that 10 million shares is going to get closer to 20 to 30 million shares, if I'm right on understanding his philosophy and how he's thinking about the broader thesis. I mean, if anything, given he's a credit investor, I would be, I wouldn't be surprised to see him participate in the convertible note that Grab raised. He would probably love to have put in some money in that $1.5 billion convertible offering with a 40% upside on his conversion price. So I think the saga of Oaktree and Grab is going to continue, and I think there's a lot more to this story. I don't think they bought 10 million shares to flip it. I think there's something deeper here that they think is going on. And again, there are 4.03 billion shares outstanding. 3.2 billion are locked up by the toots. So realistically, there's about 800 million shares. That's still a lot, but there's 800 million shares outstanding. 3.2 of them, the toots have pretty much swallowed up. His name is Howard Marks. Howard Marks manages Oaktree. He's like the co-chairman now. He doesn't manage the day-to-day, but I imagine his philosophy is still influencing the firm. Howard Marks is his name. Palo Alto Networks right there. That's up about 1%. Where is Reddit? Reddit right here. Reddit's all right, dude. High beta. It's not holding on to 15%. It's up 10%, but this thing, it can go up quick. It can go down just as quick. I mean, we saw it go from 140 to 105 on earnings last time when that Google news came out in their call. So Reddit right here, 138.91. AMD 130. We did it. AMD. Wow, 130 on AMD. Congrats. Congrats to all the AMD folks. 130. Dude, when was the last time we saw 130 on AMD? Last time was December 2024. This is when most people thought it was undervalued and it was going to 150, and it just went the complete opposite direction. Wow, there you go. 130. That's got to look nice. That's got to look nice. For those that have been in AMD, that has got to look fun. You know, Jason started getting bullish on it last week. We'll have Technical Tuesday today. And I think it was at like 115 last week. He started liking it. I think I think he's long. I think he has some options on this. So this one is working out right now as well. Yeah, patience pays. Patience pays. Sometimes you just got to be patient on the stuff like this. And it works out. Again, if there's a real fundamental thesis on a good company with trusted leadership and management, as long as the growth is there, the market will eventually find its way. I mean, like the market is a beautiful machine where capital has to be allocated. Like it just has to find the best opportunities. And obviously there's like mispricing of stocks, which is where a retail can find a Palantir or a Hood at $7. But eventually that capital finds its way into the stories that have the best narratives, the best growth, and ultimately the best leadership that are running those companies. And AMD, you know, no one can deny Lisa Su is an absolute monster, incredible. And if you believe in the broader AI thesis for NVIDIA, to an extent, you have to believe AMD is going to play a role there. Meta, XAI, Amazon, all these companies confirming over the past week that, you know, they're in deep collaboration with AMD as well. Okay, 131 on AMD. Let's see resistance. 131. AMD 130.35. 131 resistance is 42,000 shares. Not a lot. 42,000 shares. Volume on AMD on the day. Volume on Palantir is about 19 million. Volume on AMD, 30 million. Volume on NVIDIA so far is 32 million. Red Cat down 17%. Okay, so this one I'm actually not sure why it's down. If anyone knows, let me know. I don't think they did a raise or anything. I don't think they did dilution. This feels like it's more company specific. This one is getting hit right here. Nope, never mind. They did $45 million of direct offering. There you go. They're selling 6.5 million shares to raise cash for drone production. So they're raising about 50 million bucks. You're seeing a lot of companies engage in this more and more. A lot of companies do this. And again, their stocks are up so much, so it's not crazy to imagine them doing this, but there you go. Red Cat with 50 million of dilution. Big Bear AI volume, BBAI is 35 million. I don't know why Big Bear is up either. Did they get a new defense contract or something, or is this one just people piling into it? Yeah, that one currently up about 2%. Cisco right here up 0.6. Let's look at some of the other ETFs. So Matt's ETF is green, except SoFi, ASTS, Berkshire, and Bros. Tanner, Nubank's red. Okay, Tanner, everything's red today for Tanner except ServiceNow and NVIDIA. ASML, Coinbase, App, TSM, TCD are down. Chris is down across everything except Marvell, Oracle, and Cisco. Again, Oracle up about 1.5%. And then Steve, green across everything except MicroStrategy, Meta, Microsoft, and PayPal. Everything else is green. New product launch for Big Bear. Okay. I mean, look, Big Bear, small AI company. If you're buying it, you really got to believe that their AI suite of tools can, you know, surpass market expectations. Obviously, got C3 AI, Big Bear. But this is a big market. There's gonna be a lot of players. I think we all know that Palantir is in a prime position right here. 144, 141, 44 on Palantir currently right now. Crypto names, Bitcoin 105. That's still down 2% of the day. All the crypto stocks are red. And MicroStrategy 376. Ethereum as well, 2,500. Slightly down on the day. Where's Adobe? This one, again, relatively decent earnings. Adobe right here, 3.9. Damn, it's down another 3%. This one is absolutely cheap. but I just don't know what's exciting about Adobe, bro. Like Adobe feels like one of the more boring AI companies that's out there. Coinbase, do you like Coinbase? I'm biased. I like Hood more than Coinbase. The one issue I have with Coinbase is that they are so Bitcoin contingent that if you get any level of flatness or just like downside momentum on Bitcoin, you're gonna have some issues. So that's the only reason I've never really loved Coinbase. However, they did introduce something that's competitive with Robinhood yesterday. They introduced a new credit card, 4% cash back in Bitcoin. And you have zero trading fees on your first $500 of crypto per month. So I don't think this is really going to take Robinhood users off the card because Robinhood users, obviously 3% cash back. They can put it right into their brokerage. It's a really good deal. But if you're a Bitcoin bro, I don't know how you don't get this credit card. I mean, 4% cash back on everything, and it lets you stack Bitcoin. It feels like it's going to get some more momentum. Oh, do we have a Tesla headline? Do we have a Tesla headline right here? Let me see. Yeah, it looks like, now this is Business Insider, so it's one of those ones we have to be careful of believing because it's Business Insider. Apparently, Tesla's going to shut down production for the Model Y and Cybertruck over the week of July 4th. Business Insider. Is this bearish, or are they doing this because of Independence Day? Have they done this before? Have they shut down Model Y and Cybertruck production over the week of July 4th? It doesn't feel bearish. It just feels like, kind of feels like they're doing it for Independence Day. But then again, that's not really, like, does that even matter if they're doing that? Also, why would they, like, I don't know. That doesn't, like, yeah, chat says that's not new. That is Business Insider, bro. Only for the weekend, right? Yeah, like, how is that a headline? Like, I'm trying to analyze it like there's something deeper to that. It feels like that's just something they're doing from a logistical perspective. Well, okay, so you guys are speculating on the affordable vehicle. So again, we have 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks for Tesla to put out the new affordable vehicle. Remember, they said first half of 2025, which is going to end in literally 2 weeks. They would be unveiling a new affordable vehicle. And Elon teased that it's not really going to be a brand new design. It's going to be like a more affordable version of the Model Y or Model 3. That's like basically what he said on the last earnings call. So the question becomes, in the next 2 weeks, A, are we going to actually get the deadline to be achieved in terms of first half of 2025, which is June? And B, what is it going to look like if they come out with an affordable vehicle? And if there is even going to be any production for that affordable vehicle starting. So a lot of you guys are speculating new models. I hope it's new models, but we're going to have to see. Doug says it's an outage for maintenance for the factory itself. That could also be a reason, which is why it's not really that bearish either. It'll come stripped down. But see what? Okay, so what a Model Y right now is like, without the tax credit, I think 45 grand or something, like the newest one, maybe 47, 48. They want to get it to like 35, right? Or 30. Like affordable vehicle to me is like 30 or below. I mean, 25 I think is a dream. But I wonder what they take out of the Model Y, because it's a phenomenal car to get that thing to even 35,000 without the tax credit. Because you got to imagine the tax credit's going away, right? So like, how do you get to 35 without the tax credit? Like, I wonder what do you take out of that to like make it that cheap? And then, does that really spur the demand from the middle class that could afford that vehicle if it is a stripped down version of a regular Model Y? You take out a seat. No, but it's already okay. Well, yeah. Okay, so technically that could work. I see what you're saying. Definitely, you wouldn't have some of the like luxury features that a Model Y has already. Okay, well that's the good answer. Battery, less range. Yeah, that's the big. Yeah. I mean, as soon as you have a smaller battery or less focus on the battery, that should decrease their cost of goods to be able to make that car. I don't think they're going to do a 3-wheeler, even though wheels are indeed expensive. I don't have any views on RGC. RGC, there is no views on this. I mean, if you bought it in January, you got lucky and you made 10,000 to 10 million. It's up another 20% today. Why not? If I wouldn't chase it right here. But yeah, if you invested 10,000 in January, it's 10 million today. Which I think, dude, I would have sold after I was up 10,000. Like, how many people would have actually held if they bought it in January? Like some random biotech. If I was up 5,000, I would have taken some profits. I'm actually happy I didn't invest, because if I sold it and took 5,000 in profits and I could have had 5 million, it would have just hurt. It would have really hurt, So I'd rather have not done that. This is the list for that draft thing that people were looking at. Shout out to Karan. Karan texted Karan Invests on Twitter. I'll link his Twitter right here below. He said he vibe coded this last night. Super cool, dude. Super, super freaking cool. So there you go. That's what we got. Is it time to sell covered calls on AMD? I think conservatively, sure, because it's at basically 52-week highs right here. And so, you got to ask yourself, how much more is the market willing to give it? And the question is the premiums, right? How much more the premiums going to be accelerating for this one? So let's look at it right now. So AMD, let's go a month out. Let's go to July 18th. Yeah, I mean, dude, even if you want to sell the 145, you're getting $2. It's up 60% today. Sell the 140, you get $3. 135, you get $4.50. I think the 145 is not crazy. You're asking for a pretty aggressive move right here. How much is that? 145 minus 130. That would be a basically 12% move in a month, which AMD doesn't really move like that. Now, could it go parabolic? Sure, but it tends to not move as aggressively. There's 11,000 open interest for that 145 call. 4,000 have been traded today and collect about $2, which is not too bad. So that's what we got. Oil stocks for now. What do I think about oil stocks? I think any news could come out that gets the market to realize that oil is not going to be in short supply. And as a result, that could change immediately. So oil looks attractive right now. If this is an ongoing conflict for like the next 2 years, yeah, oil stocks are nice, but Trump is on this drill baby drill thing. If this stuff is resolved relatively soon and we keep pumping oil, OPEC already put a statement yesterday saying they're going to keep drilling. So if they're going to keep drilling, then it's going to be hard to see. It's going to be hard to see, oil prices continue to go up as aggressively as we think it's going to happen. Don't sell a covered call unless you're selling a cash cleared put with it. No, I disagree, dude. Why? Like, you don't have to sell a cash cleared put just to sell a covered call. I don't think that makes any sense. You can do a strangle if you want, but I don't think you are only allowed to sell a covered call if you sell a cash cleared put with it. You also have to, it's like when people say these blanket statements, it doesn't make any sense. What if you have 10,000 shares of AMD? Do you need to hedge to your shares? Do you need to hedge 1,000 of your shares getting called away by having 10 cash cleared puts? Like, no, because you already have a heavy position. Now, if you only have 100 shares, maybe, yeah, you don't want these shares to get called away so you can hedge with a cash cleared put in case it goes to the downside. But it's all contingent on, how you're positioned in the portfolio with a specific name. Because if you're overweight or underweight a stock, it definitely influences, how many calls you want to sell, if you want to sell calls, how many puts you want to sell, etc. So I don't think they have to happen together. Yeah, that only be, yeah, exactly. Now, if you're doing a naked call, which I don't recommend for anybody because that could blow up in your face, then you definitely need to have, some downside protection. But I never talk about naked calls on the channel. We don't do naked calls. I think you have to be pretty damn sophisticated to think you can sell naked calls on something, which essentially means, like, if you have 100 shares of NVIDIA and you're selling a call, if your call gets called away, okay, the person you're doing the bet with takes away your 100 shares, you get the premium, you get the profit, you move on. If it's naked and you don't actually have the shares, which is why I think Robinhood doesn't allow you to do this because they're really afraid that people would take advantage of this, you can collect all that premium without actually having to buy the shares, which means it's kind of like free money if you're right and the stock doesn't get your strike price. If you're wrong and you have like 100 calls you have to buy 10,000 shares at the spot price, which means you lose a lot of money. So naked calls is usually not the best option here. Anyone own On? Dude, I haven't looked at this one in a long time. On is the sneakers, right? 52.90. That thing year to date down 5%. That was up a lot last year. Yeah, it was up 27% over the past year. I've not seen them for a while. Okay, options 301 with Jason. Hopefully that should be out soon. Again, I was traveling the past couple weeks. I'm now back home for the next 3 months. I don't think it's going to be on Thursday because he's busy on Thursday, but on Saturday this week, I'll talk to him today. There's a world where we could do on Saturday. So now that we're actually home, I think we have the time to do that. Hims right here, 59.67. That's trying to go back green. Robin at 75.87, and then Palantir just holding above this 141 level. Let's get a little bit more of an update on retail sales, and then we'll keep going from there.
Important because it speaks to the softening momentum in the U.S. consumer. Services had been a really strong part of the economy, and so has, restaurant services. So that would decline. Grocery stores were also down. There were some offsets. Miscellaneous store retailers, that could be anything from pet stores to used merchandise. That was strong. Sporting goods, hobby stores, furniture had a little bit of a comeback. Online, still positive, and surprisingly, clothing positive, but not enough to offset the overall number, which was down. The only silver lining here, guys, is that the control group, which actually feeds into our overall GDP, was quite strong. And that's going to make GDP second quarter look a little bit better, thanks to the rise in furniture and sporting goods and that sort of thing. So kind of a mixed picture there. But David, as I mentioned earlier, the Fed tomorrow has a tricky job when it comes to characterizing what it's going to do next and what they think about the economy, because you cannot deny there are signs of softness from retail sales to the Fed Beige Book to some of the employment numbers.
Any new words we think that Chair Powell will use? Want to take an over-under on what they might be, and therefore how often they'll be
Uncertainty.
mentioned? We're going to hear that one, right?
Uncertain is going to be a big one, whether it relates to business, consumer uncertainty, but also the Fed uncertainty. Because here's the thing, that their dual mandate is pointing them in different directions, and they need to decide which one they're more worried about, weakening economy or higher inflation. And if they are truly data dependent, right now it is weakening economy winning out over inflation. So if they're going to say they're worried about inflation, they have to make the case of why they think the tariffs are going to cause inflation, because we just don't see that yet.
Well, do you imagine the Q2 GDP will be a reversal of Q1?
For sure.
So why wouldn't the Fed say the same thing about the inflation data they're getting right now?
It's what the same thing that they said about Q1, which is it's totally distorted by imports and exports. And there's a lot of a give back. Well,
that's the problem with being data dependent, is that there's huge distortions.
It's a problem with GDP dependent. But I think if you look at they could easily make the case that the economy is doing fine. The unemployment rate is 4.2%. It barely budged. But they could also make the case that the economy is showing some signs of softness. And I think that's what the market is telling you when it says that we still could see almost 2 rate cuts.
Yeah. They've cut 100 basis points. We're still waiting for all that to filter in.
Yeah, I think the question is just how, I spoke recently to Governor Kugler. She gets
she's hawkish.
Very hawkish, and she's very worried about inflation, even though we just haven't seen signs. She's looking at some of the surveys about companies saying that they're going to raise prices or consumers expecting higher prices. And that's going to be the big debate. How much do you read into that kind of stuff? Because long-term inflation expectations, 5-year, 10-year, they're not showing any big concern there.
Well, yeah, unless on UMich, they're still pretty elevated on a...
But that's survey stuff. Yeah, sure. But that's also very partisan.
Yes.
I mean, look at the breakdown of Democrats and Republicans, and they cannot make their policy for Democrats that are expecting a big inflationary wave as a result of tariffs.
Right. Meantime, stocks are under some pressure today this morning as investors watch developments out of Israel and Iran. And of course, that week, a retail sales number. Joining us this morning, Fidelity Investments Director of Global Macro.
All right. S&P still holding above 6,000. We don't have any other updates other than what we got 20 minutes ago about Israel announcing that they were launching missiles towards Iran. Israeli military says missiles launched from Iran towards Israel. All right, so that came out about 5 minutes ago. I'm seeing that right now. Air raid sirens sound in Tel Aviv. Reuters witness is reporting that right now. And Israeli military says missiles launched from Iran towards Israel. That came out about 5 minutes ago. All right, so they're exchanging missiles back and forth. This was to be expected. Israel said about 30 minutes ago they launched missiles. Now they're announcing that Iran is launching missiles at them. So now the question is going to be, to what extent does this continue to escalate? Again, markets, they have the same headlines that I just told you. They don't care. They don't care. S&P still above 6,000. Stocks holding a lot of their premium. I mean, realistically, so far, they still do not care. Yeah, we talked about Trump leaving G7 early last night. That dude, when I saw that headline, I was like, okay, so Trump's not happy with what's going on right here. I mean, if he's leaving G7, and there was a lot of negotiating to get done at G7 in terms of trade deals, if he's leaving that for this, that means this is taking a lot of priority. And if it's taking a lot of priority, then it obviously must mean that something is, playing out that's not the best. I think Pete Hegseth was on Fox News yesterday. Do I have this right here? No, I don't have this right here. Here. Okay, so here's a little bit of the headline right here. So let's see what he said last night as well. I think he did this appearance right after Trump decided he was leaving G7 early.
Pretty soon with the president. Is he still aiming for a nuclear deal with the Iranians?
Of course. The president's, as he said today, his position has not changed. What you're watching in real time is peace through strength and America first. Our job is to be strong. We are postured defensively in the region to be strong in pursuit of a peace deal. And we certainly hope that's what happens here. And America first means we're going to defend American personnel and American interests. So when you see jets and you see air defense assets and counter UAS assets, that's because my job as the Secretary of Defense is to ensure that our people are safe and that we're strong so that we can set the conditions for a deal. And President Trump's made it clear it's on the table. The question is whether Iran will take it.
All right. So the deal is still on the table, but all options are on the table from what it sounds like. What does that look like?
What it looks like right now is we're vigilant. We're prepared. And we've messaged consistently from the beginning that we're in the region to defend our people and our assets. And Israel took an action out of self-defense. We believe that Iran, as President has said from the beginning, should not have a nuclear weapon. That position hasn't changed. They can give it up peacefully. That position hasn't changed. And as a result, right now, we've got assets in the region and we're going to defend them. And we're going to be strong in the process. So people are reading into a lot of aspects right now. We're strong. We're prepared. We're defensive. And President Trump hopes there can be peace.
All right. Secretary Hegseth.
All right. So he didn't really say much in terms of us getting any understanding of what's going on. By the way, APPS is up 45% because they beat earnings. So this one, it's a small cap advertising space, $730 million market cap. Again, some of these names, they could have some really explosive numbers if they beat their earnings. They beat their earnings by a wide margin today. And that's why this stock is up 45%. Pound right here at 140, Robin at 75.55. But again, Hegseth didn't give us much to understand in terms of what Trump is trying to do. The only thing I got from that is that we don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon. It's like, yeah, sure. Like, obviously, like we all get it. But like, what are we going to do about that? We don't want them to get a nuclear weapon, but what steps are we going to take as a country in order to stop that? And I think that's what everyone's curious about right now. Here is the update on the tax bill as well that affected solar stocks today and Oscar this morning.
Emily, on the Senate version of the bill, what's in it and how folks are reacting?
Hey, Sarah. Well, at this point, the reaction hasn't been all positive. I mean, the Senate version of this multi-trillion tax bill, it just dropped yesterday, and it is already in trouble with both House and Senate Republicans raising concerns about some of the provisions. Some, like Senator Josh Hawley, he's concerned with some of the cuts to Medicaid that are in the bill, specifically limiting that provider tax that states can charge to healthcare providers. The Senate is much stricter than the House on that. Others are concerned about the overall cost, and that includes Senator Ron Johnson, who said this morning on CNBC that more spending cuts are going to be needed.
They talked about, the only numbers that count are 218 and 51. Again, that's not the type of goal setting we need when we're $37 trillion in debt on the road.
The Senate measure makes dozens of tweaks to the House bill, and that includes making key tax breaks for businesses permanent, including on measures like research and experimenting, faster depreciation, and deducting interest. It also slows down the phase out of clean energy tax credits compared to what was in the House bill. So things are a little bit better for solar and wind, although not as good as it would have been before these policies were proposed. And the Senate bill also would blunt the impact of that so-called revenge tax on foreign countries and investors, giving countries more time to potentially negotiate something with the U.S. Now, the text that Senate Republicans leased did not contain a final proposal for that state and local deduction cap. Senators have said, though, it will be lower than that $40,000 proposed by the House, and that has provoked a group of Republican House members from high-tax states to threaten to sink the Senate bill if it even goes $1 under that agreed-upon $40,000 cap. Congress is going to need to move quickly if they want to finish this by July 4th. And Sarah will be keeping a very close eye on what the next steps are going to be and how senators react when they meet today.
Emily, thank you. Emily Wilkins in D.C. Let's get a news update now. Courtney Reagan has that for us. Courtney.
Hi, good morning, David. A Russian missile and drone attack on Ukraine killed at least 15 people overnight, according to local officials. They say more than 150 were injured in the bombardment, which heavily damaged a 9-story apartment building in Kyiv.
See, the sad part about all this is, again, when we have these missile attacks going back and forth, it does result in a loss of life. And again, the reported toll right now, and the Russia update we heard just now, that has been going on for about 2 years. But in Israel, it's 24 people that have lost their life. In Iran, it's 224. That is the official report as of last night. I'm sure that number will be changing over the next couple of days. But 24 in Israel, 224 in Iran. And again, I just keep going back to Trump said to evacuate Tehran. Trump is telling these, how many people live in, I believe it's over 10 million. It's the largest city in Iran. Yeah, 10 million. Just about 10 million, 9.8 million. It's the most populous city in Iran and Western Asia, and the second largest metropolitan area. So for him to say, hey, evacuate and leave 17 million in the metropolitan part of the area. I mean, dude, if you're an Iranian citizen right now, and the president of the United States says, leave the region, what do you do? Like, I think the number one thing you think about is, hey, like, I need to take him seriously. Like, the president's not going to put out a warning like that unless he knows that something's about to go down. And so, from that perspective, it does feel like the escalation will get more aggressive. And again, it's a change of tone from yesterday. Yesterday, he said they wanted to de-escalate. Trump literally said, hey, they're ready to de-escalate. We had multiple reports saying that went the opposite route. Now, granted, those reports could be true, even with Israel and Iran still exchanging some missiles today. They could go back and forth, and then we could get a resolution. The question is if the back and forth leads to a complete further escalation, because each of them have to get their own missiles off. That's inevitable. They're going to have to do that. The question is, how aggressive does each side want to go? And again, Iranian state media said yesterday that this will be the worst attack Israel has ever seen in the history of them being a country. Now, is that actually going to be the case? We don't know. But yeah, they're probably not following him on Truth Social. That's fair. I would imagine Iranian state media, though, would show everybody that Trump says you should leave. I mean, here's the question. Like, if Trump says leave and Iran state media says don't leave, we're going to be okay. And then it's not okay. And, you got millions of people's lives that are at jeopardy here. It's going to be one of those very, very unfortunate things. Very, very, very unfortunate things. The thing that it's also creating right now is a culture war. I mean, you're getting even with Tucker Carlson, right? Trump tweeted because Tucker Carlson's take has been that we don't want to get into this war. He's been, he actually was a supporter of the Iraq war, and he's openly admitted that he was wrong about that. And so, he's going down the route, at least with his recent comments of we shouldn't get involved here. Trump yesterday tweeted, somebody please tell kooky Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So you got Trump going the opposite. And again, and Tucker's a big Trump guy. I mean, Tucker helped him get reelected in 2024. So it looks like he's going a different route right here and basically saying that, this is not the way that the administration should play this out. He did a podcast yesterday with what's his name, with Steve Bannon, who also is a big Trump guy. And even Steve Bannon is like, we don't want to get involved in this war. This is a clip from what they talked about.
You're not going to convince me that the Iranian people are my enemy. Again, we're going down this here. Here's who you're required to hate. It's Orwell, man. I'm a free man. You're not telling me who I have to hate. I'll decide who I like and don't like on the basis of my values and what I believe my interests are. I don't want to be involved in this at all. And I think most Americans don't. And it's only because
we're inexorably getting drawn into a war.
By a tiny minority of people. You know what I mean? This is like, it's all so fake. I'm not playing along. Just don't want my country to be further weakened or destroyed by another one of these wars. And boy, if you can't connect the dots after 25 years of this, you're either too dumb to participate in the conversation, or you're, like Mark Levin, just a liar who doesn't care.
So that's one perspective. And then you have other perspectives from people that think we need to do whatever we need to do to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. So, I mean, and those two competing narratives are going to go back and forth. They are going to go back and forth in terms of how the American people think of this. And the real question here is going to be, such and says Steve Bannon is not a Trump guy. He's a Trump guy because it suits his agenda. That is also fair. He doesn't unequivocally love Trump to just love Trump. He's not a loyalist to Trump. He has been a fan of Trump because of Trump's agenda and because of America First and not getting into wars, yada, yada. But the reason he did the podcast with Tucker yesterday is because he thinks it's prudent to put his message out there that, hey, we don't want to get into this shit. And, he is vehemently opposed to the idea of the United States spending another 15 years in the Middle East. And obviously so is Tucker as well. I think the narrative that's going to be interesting over the coming months, if this does escalate, is how does Trump convince his MAGA base that we should go to war if we are going into war, assuming the United States either puts boots on the ground or has offensive airstrikes. How does he convince MAGA that this is a good thing? Because I think even if you're a Trump loyalist, even if you're MAGA till you die, this is anti-MAGA. Like this is, unless you assume making America great again means defending the country's interests from Iran not having a nuclear weapon at all costs. But that's not what MAGA means. I mean, we know that's not what the whole idea of MAGA was we're not going to get involved in all the other shit. We're going to focus on us. I mean, at its most basic level, that's what a 3-year-old would be able to explain what MAGA is. We focus on America, not the rest of the world. Now, granted, the reality of the situation is different from the philosophy because America, at the end of the day, plays a massive role in global geopolitics. The question is, will there be public support? Will there be public support? And I don't know how much public. I mean, there's going to need to be a massive marketing campaign for there to be meaningful public support if we do get into the war. Which again, I don't think we're getting into it, but let's say we do, because who knows? There would have to be a very strong level of communication by the Charlie Kirks and the Laura Loomers and all these MAGA influencers that basically parrot everything that Trump says, and they're gonna have to convince people that there should be some type of a reason to go to Iran. By the way, Coinbase right here is seeking U.S. SEC approval to offer blockchain-based stocks. The era of tokenized stocks is coming, folks. If it's happening with Coinbase, we know Robinhood's launching a tokenized platform soon. Kraken launched it a couple weeks ago. It is definitely coming soon. And then we got this update right here. The German chancellor just said, expect a trade deal with the United States in tariff dispute before the summer is over. Before the summer is over. So there you go. We got that update from Germany, and we got that update from Coinbase as well. But yeah, I think there's going to be a massive marketing campaign if we do end up going into this war. And I really wonder how the administration is going to frame that it's going to play out. Yesterday, why was this thought of as a nothing burger and Iran wanted to cry uncle? Well, that's what the media reports were telling us, right? Yesterday, media reports were saying that, and not just media reports, but kind of the market reaction was that this is not a big deal and that the market is going to move on from this and that Iran's crying uncle. Today, it's different. You got different media reports. This is a very dynamic situation. I mean, what really, again, surprised me yesterday is when Trump he left G7 early. I was at the gym after the market close. I think it was like 7:45, and I saw the notification. Trump leaving. I had to like pause on the treadmill as soon as I saw that. I was like, dude, he's actually leaving G7? Like that's not a joke if he's leaving G7. And then number two, when he said 20 minutes later to evacuate Tehran. When I saw those two updates last night, I was like, oh, things might be changing. This might be changing here. And so, if we, but the market still doesn't care. Again, the market still does not care. S&P over 6,000. So regardless of these new updates, Iran might still end up crying uncle, or it might, even if there is a further escalation, the market might not think that there's any need to sell off these stocks if this is happening. Because then the question becomes, what is the actual conclusion to what happens? Like, are we really entering a war? Is this the start of World War III, et cetera? And until the market has clarity on that, I don't think they necessarily give up these stocks until they fully understand it. Dave says, I think you're thinking of it too binary. It's not going to be going to war or not going to war. It's going to be something in between, which is actually the status quo most of the time anyway. Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point. It's a very fair point. Yeah, he left the summit, not G7. I'm sorry. He left the G7 summit, not G7 itself. But that's a fair point. I mean, it could be something very much in between where we continue to supply Israel weapons and we continue to focus in different ways as a proxy to the war, but we don't legitimately go to war. Now, 10 congressmen have already drafted legislation. Thomas Massie is leading the charge here on a attempt to force Congress to approve any level of war that we would get into. So that legislation is not fully out yet, but you do have 10 Congress members led by Thomas Massie yesterday that are introducing legislation to make sure that the president unilaterally cannot get us into a war, and he would need the power of Congress. The question is just, how aggressive does it get? Iran intends to invite foreign diplomats to visit nuclear sites in an effort to prevent their bombing. Wow. Huh. That's actually a smart strategy. I mean, because if Israel knocks out some nuclear sites and then they've just killed another country's foreign diplomat, that country is going to be pretty damn upset. Now, granted, that again, that still sounds like escalation, because what if Israel says we don't care? What if they invite a Russian diplomat to visit your nuclear site? By the way, Russia's foreign minister was at North Korea yesterday. So the Russians and the North Koreans are talking. Most likely is because reports are saying North Korea is providing them with about 6,000 troops to fight in Ukraine. But yeah, I mean, like if Israel, kills someone from Russia based on an attack, even if it's a casualty, Russia's going to be upset, right? They're not going to be happy about that. So there could definitely be a way that continues to escalate the war as well. I think over the coming hours, dude, we're going to get a lot of updates. We're going to get a lot of updates to see how this plays out. Let's get an update on the Fed meeting that we've got coming up tomorrow. We do have FOMC meeting tomorrow, which now seems insignificant in the context of everything going on. But let's get an update from them, then we'll keep going.
Optimism, perhaps, among CNBC's Fed survey participants about the outlook for markets. Steve Leisman has the details for us. Steve?
Yeah, David, a little bit brighter when it comes to the outlook for stocks, with respondents to the CNBC Fed survey lowering their recession probability and seeing more of a bounce back in the economy and stocks in 2026. Year end, we're looking at 61.33. That's just up 1.5. But things look better for 2026. 66.25 on the S&P. That's up nearly 10% from yesterday's close. Hank Smith at Haverford Trust writes in with the survey. Equity markets are near all-time highs in anticipation of certainty replacing uncertainty on tariffs, the 2017 tax cuts getting extended, deregulation, AI productivity, and Fed easing. If all this occurs, the economy should reaccelerate in the second half into 26. 10 years seen a bit higher at 443, up from the prior survey, but below the current rate, and also a little bit better, but still higher in 2026 relative to the prior survey. On the tax bill, 43% believe it will significantly increase the deficit. 39% somewhat increase, call it 82% think that this tax bill will indeed increase the deficit.
And if we don't cut Medicaid spending, which is the reason why Oscar is up, we are going to continue to increase that deficit. The only way we have out of it, quite frankly, is growing. And I think that's why Elon is just back to focus on technology growth as well. Folks, we got the letter. We got the letter from Palantir. We got the letter from Palantir. I can read it live for everybody. For those that don't know, there was an update this morning. Palantir got sent a letter. The New York Times reported that they got sent a letter. It's kind of long, but I'll read a couple paragraphs of it, and then you guys can go through it as well. Here's the question to everybody. I told you guys, or the New York Times reported this morning, that 10 people signed it. I'm looking at the signatures right now. Before I tell you, who do you guys think signed this letter? Who do you guys think? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep, 10. Who do you guys think signed this letter? Let me open it up right here. We all had a bunch of guesses in the morning of what congressmen and women were taking the valuable time out of our taxpayer dollars that they get paid in salary to focus on this situation. Here's the letter right here. I'll put it in the chat. It is a public letter. Everyone can see it. There it is right there. And as you can see, it's addressed to Mr. Alex Karp, June 17th. The letter was signed by AOC and Elizabeth Warren. AOC, Ron Wyden, Elizabeth Warren, James Govern, Sarah Jacobs, Jeffrey Merkley, Edward Markey, Rashida Tlaib, Summer Lee, and Paul D. Tonko. These were the 10 people. You guys definitely called it in the morning. AOC and Warren. You guys definitely called it. AOC and Elizabeth Warren. Bernie, I had a feeling Bernie wouldn't be on it, bro. I had a feeling Bernie would be doing something else with his life than focusing on this. And he's focusing on other stuff right now. All right, here we go. Let's read through some of this. Let's see what they have to say. Dear Mr. Karp, we write to demand information. Wow, demand. Wow. Goodness gracious, dude. We write to demand information regarding reports that Palantir is enabling profiting from serious violations of federal law by the Trump administration, which is amassing troves of data on Americans to create a government-wide searchable mega database containing the sensitive taxpayer data of American citizens. According to press reports, Palantir employees have reportedly been installed at the IRS, where they are helping the agency use Palantir software to create a single searchable database of taxpayer records. The sensitive taxpayer data compiled into this Palantir database will likely be shared throughout the government, regardless of whether access to this information will be related to tax administration or enforcement, which is generally a violation of federal law. Palantir's products and services were reportedly selected for this brazenly illegal project by Elon Musk's Doge. Several Doge members are former Palantir employees. By the way, all these sources, if you go to all these footnotes relate to the New York Times. So if you go to the bottom and you see these footnotes, all of them are New York Times. So they're using this article to kind of, there's the Shira Frankel article to justify going after making these assumptions on Palantir. The unprecedented possibility of a searchable mega database of tax returns and the other data that will potentially be shared or with or accessed by other federal agencies is a surveillance nightmare that raises a host of legal concerns, not least that it will make significantly easier for Trump's administration to spy on and target his growing list of enemies and other Americans. My goodness, bro. They really think Trump's trying to just spy on Americans and create a master database. This is the argument they're going for. This potential mega database at the IRS and elsewhere also raises a myriad of potential violations of privacy laws designed to strictly limit those who can access the tax record returns of individuals and businesses. As you are aware, tax returns and return information are subject to strong legal privacy protections. These laws were strengthened nearly 50 years ago with strong bipartisan majorities of Congress in response to President Nixon's abuse of IRS to target his political enemies. These prohibitions have long prevented political appointees in previous administrations from assessing the private tax records of hundreds of millions of Americans, and allowing the government to create a master database of taxpayer records that will be shared with other government agencies may be in violation of these statutes. Okay, let's go further down. Okay, so here are the 10 questions they're asking for by July 10th. By July 10th. Please provide a list of all current Palantir contracts with the United States government. For each contract, please provide the following information: the dollar value of the award. Okay, this is stupid. You can look this up on the government's public database website right now. Literally, Adam just posted a $3 million contract we got from the NIH yesterday. And it has all the stuff they're looking for: the name of the software, the dollar value of the amount, the terms of service, a detailed description, yada, yada. This is absolutely, this just lets you know that these people probably don't know that you don't need Palantir to provide you all this information. It's government contracts. You can look it up. Like this right here it already makes you think it's not nothing. There's nothing serious here. There's nothing serious. Really? You didn't know you can look up Palantir government contracts? Number 2, has Palantir sought or received assurances from the U.S. government that its executives, board members, and employees will not be held responsible for violations of federal law, including the Internal Revenue Code? Basically, that question is, hey, did Trump tell you guys that you're going to be let free if you violate and do his bidding? Number 3, has Palantir provided insurance coverage or commitments to pay legal costs and fines to any of its executive, board members, or employees in any connection with the company's work for the U.S. government or foreign government? Okay, so they're asking if Palantir covers the legal costs of their employees. What services, features, or assistance, if any, has the Trump administration requested and Palantir declined to provide due to concerns related to private civil liberties and potential violations of federal, state, or international law? That's actually a good question. That's a good one. That's like, if you were going to investigate this, that would be a question I asked. Like, hey, has he asked you to do anything that you've rejected? Which I'd be curious to know as well. And I know 2015, the whole Muslim database thing, like Palantir rejected that. So that's actually a reasonable question. But some of these other questions seem kind of stupid. Number 5, is Palantir aware of the requirements placed on agencies and contractors by the Privacy Act of 1974? Have you advised the government of those requirements or offered to assist in their compliance? Do you believe that the government is currently satisfying its requirements under the Privacy Act? Number 6, does the company have a red line for potential violations of human rights? Again, they don't know Palantir because CARP has talked about this quote unquote red line for years at this point. So I think that's, that's just something that if they did ask CARP that in public, he would be able to answer that easily. Number 7, how many Palantir employees have quit since January 2025, citing the company's work of the Trump administration? That one's also kind of stupid, bro. It's like, how many people have quit Meta? How many people have quit Google? How many people have quit AWS? I mean, yeah, there's some employees that are not going to agree with Palantir working with ICE or Palantir supporting Israel. They're going to quit. It's like that is not indicative of Palantir creating a master evil surveillance. Like the idea that you're going to say some 24-year-old who has not fully developed their political views is leaving Palantir because they don't like the work that Palantir is doing with the government is like emblematic of the fact that Palantir is an evil company. If that's the assumption, it's not the best assumption in my opinion. It's kind of just like a nothing burger in terms of how they're playing this. The only question here that's valid is, hey, has Trump asked you to do something and you said no to it? But maybe it has, maybe he hasn't. But outside of that, I don't know if you need an entire letter citing the New York Times and going back to President Nixon's abuse of the IRS to try to make an argument for why Palantir by July 10th needs to submit all of this information, that most of it is already publicly available online. I mean, again, dude, like literally, this is why our politicians continuously surprise me. GoCarp yesterday posted this picture from the NIH. It's a $3 million contract that we got, all of it publicly available that anyone can find. There it is. There's all the information that AOC wants. The date signed, what is it going to be doing, what government, what agency, what's the money, where is it going to, like all of this. It's all publicly there. Maybe they want to know if there's contracts that aren't published publicly. That's fair, but then, it begs the question, is Palantir even allowed to show those contracts, right? Because there are some things that are confidential that you just can't show. And that's not a Palantir thing. That's like any defense contractor would not be able to show some of that information. Tesla right here, 322, Palantir 140. That's down about 0.5%. Robin at 75.45. Grab at 480. PayPal 71.51. Meta 701. S&P at 600.9 currently right now. Look, again, from my perspective, I feel like this is not something that AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Elizabeth Warren should be spending their time on. There's a lot more important stuff. I think they're seeing the headlines. I think they're seeing a media opportunity, and they're trying to paint Palantir as the company that's poor. I mean, look at what they write right here. Palantir is certainly not the first American company to earn huge profits by enabling violations of human rights by authoritarian governments. For example, IBM sold computers to South Africa's apartheid-era government that the regime used to maintain racial classification records.
Before that, the company sold punch card machines that the Nazis used to run concentration camps. Cisco custom built the so-called Great Firewall of China, which enables the Chinese government to conduct surveillance and censorship against its citizens. Are we really using these comparisons to say Palantir is equivalent to Nazi Germany or South African apartheid? Like, at some level, this has got to be insanity, bro. Like, it's got to be a freaking joke. This is really what they put in the letter. It just makes you, and again, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be inquisitive of what Palantir is doing. Like, they might not know a lot about Palantir. They want to get to know more, yada, yada. And they want to have a little bit more of an understanding of it. But goodness gracious, dude, you're AOC, you're Elizabeth Warren. You get paid a crap ton of money. You have the biggest research team, by the way, S&P just above 6,000 right here, in Washington. You're telling me you can't tell your interns to go do a month of research and give you a meaningful summary, a one-pager on what Palantir does? Obviously, the route they're going by putting out this letter and essentially accusing Palantir of being equivalent to companies that help the Nazis, and the tone at which they're asking these questions, most of which are already available publicly, that they're interns, which also get paid a lot of money when you're AOC's top intern, like, you're making some good cash as well. You could find that information out very easily. The idea that they're going the media route and the public letter route, dear Mr. Karp, we write to demand information. I mean, this is all publicity. They want to get a piece of the attention on Palantir right now. It's grandstanding. Exactly. That's the word. It's grandstanding. Like, exactly. Meta's entire business is collecting information about everyone and every human, yet they're focused on Palantir, providing a better way for the IRS to collect tax dollars, because for the past couple of years, we've had an $80 billion, I don't know if you would call it deficit, but essentially an $80 billion withdrawal of money that should have been coming to the IRS based on some of the independent reports that we've seen from the Congressional Budget Committee. And the reason Biden wanted to hire 80,000 IRS employees in the Inflation Reduction Act is to collect taxes. The reason Trump is like, hey, we're not going to do that, is because, wait a second, instead of hiring 80,000 employees that work at the IRS that, by the way, are probably going to be inefficient at finding tax dollars, what if we use software? What if we pay Palantir $30 million and they get the job done? Like, this is actually kind of how this is playing out. But, AOC and Elizabeth Warren, they don't want to go that route. They don't want to actually see how Palantir is being used. They want to find a narrative. And they want to find a narrative that meets their agenda and frame it in the public that allows them to win. Which to me is just ridiculous at this point. And again, the Republicans do it too. Right now, we're picking on the Democrats right now, but the Republicans do it as well. I mean, they've done this plenty of times in their own way. It's just Warren is known for saying, hey, Trump shouldn't be complaining about Powell cutting rates. And then she's sending him a letter in August of 2024 begging him to cut rates. It's like, how are you upset that the president's saying, hey, Powell, you should cut rates, and say Trump shouldn't be tweeting stuff like this, but then you are sending him literal congressional letters about why he should be cutting rates? I mean, it's all hypocrisy. It just feels like it's all hypocrisy at the end of the day. And yes, am I biased towards Palantir? 100%. Like, I get it. Like, I understand. I'm saying this with some bias here, but I'm also trying to be objective here. Like that's why I said one of the questions they asked was good. It's a good question. One of those questions about, hey, has Trump asked you to do something and have you rejected a request? That's a good question to ask. That's a question I would like to know the answer to as well. But that's also a question you can reach out to Palantir's legal team. They've got a lot of people that are paid a lot of money to handle their the being a liaison essentially with Congress. You can request to speak to Palantir's lawyers to get answers to those questions. You don't have to do this in some public grandstanding attempt to try to get all this attention. And that's what it feels like is happening right now. Which just doesn't feel as sincere. Palantir 140, S&P 500 right here, 601. Currently on the day. Sorry guys for the crypto bots in the chat. There's some bots right here. I'm trying to get rid of them, but please don't buy the Mori coin from some of these bots. Google and Microsoft can read your mind by search history. Dude, Google and Microsoft and Meta, Amazon, these companies have so much data, and these guys are focused on Palantir. They aren't doing this because of the article was put out, so they have an excuse to do this. That's fair. But the point is they're using the article to justify the reason for sending this letter, you know? And it's just hilarious because what if that article never came out? Like, if you cared so much about civil liberties and rights violations, you should probably do the research and conduct an internal investigation. But no, when the New York Times reports it, which that article has been debunked time and time again over the past couple of weeks, and that's the basis for the legitimacy on how you publicly call for more information from Palantir. It just seems like it's all a game. It really does. And it's a game of trying to get more attention and paint Palantir as the boogeyman to get more attention and to frame the narrative. Elon just tweeted this. Their new name is perfect. Wall Street Journal, otherwise known as We Suck at Journalism. So you got Elon taking a little bit of a dig as well at the mainstream media. Someone is surely short Palantir, and behind this, it's so obvious. Well, that's the initial thing I think all of us thought as well, that someone asked the New York Times to publish this to fuel their short. Now, granted, Palantir has only gone up. Like, this came out when Palantir, I think, was at 120, 124, or 125. Palantir's at 140, so the article has not helped the short. And quite frankly, if anything, it's given a lot of coverage to Palantir as a company that's winning a lot of government contracts. And I think a lot of people are like, all right, screw the New York Times. I don't care. I want to invest in a company that's getting a ton of government contracts, which theoretically could be a tailwind to some extent to Palantir as well. Let's get an update on what's going on in Iran, Israel, and we will keep going further from there.
Good morning again, guys. Carl, that sudden and surprise departure was by far the biggest headline coming out of this summit and the biggest moment as well. The president scrapping quite suddenly plans for his whole day today that included sit-down meetings with the presidents of Ukraine and Mexico, as well as some other closed-door private sessions as well. The White House, of course, saying he had to get back to Washington to focus on the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. And we do expect that President Trump will be spending much of the day today in the Situation Room with his national security team. A U.S. official confirming overnight that he had asked that security team to be ready and prepared in the Situation Room as soon as he landed this morning, which happened at about 5 a.m. Eastern. The question now, of course, is on whether the U.S. is willing to help Israel in these attacks or whether they're continuing to push for a diplomatic solution. And to that end, the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz just spoke here at the G7. And according to a German broadcaster, he said if Iran does not back down, complete destruction of Iranian nuclear program is on the agenda, which Israel cannot achieve alone. Of course, the U.S. has always been expected to have to get involved in order to get to that step of complete annihilation of the nuclear program. For his part, President Trump not showing his cards just yet as to which way he'll go. He told reporters that he wasn't looking for a ceasefire on Air Force One. And then he said this. Take a listen.
What specifically is better than a ceasefire? What are you looking for here?
An end. A real end, not a ceasefire. An end.
So something that will be permanent.
Or giving up entirely.
As for the rest of the G7, guys, it does continue throughout the day today. Again, I'm surrounded by international media whose world leaders are still here. The president said he accomplished what he needed to do yesterday. We can confirm he met one-on-one with nearly every G7 and EU leader, the one question mark being Italy's Meloni, that we're not sure whether they did meet privately. But despite all those meetings, not much tangible progress on the trade front, which was the one thing the White House and other countries had really been hoping for, is some sort of deal or at least major momentum. The president saying on his plane that when it came to the EU, he said, we're talking, but I don't feel that we're offering a fair deal yet. As for Japan, he said there's a chance of a deal, but they are tough. But guys, I will say Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent remains here, we think, as the sole member of the U.S. delegation that's still at the G7. There could be more talks on trade today. We've asked the Treasury Department, and they haven't told us just yet, but we'll bring you more on that as we have it. Guys.
Yeah, Megan, you mentioned the German chancellor. The other thing he told ARD, the broadcaster, is that we could expect a deal with the U.S., I assume he means the EU, with the tariff dispute before the summer's over, which I thought was somewhat constructive given some of the comments about those negotiations we got from the Commerce Secretary last week.
It's an optimistic take. The president has long been hard on the EU. We heard him repeat this again last night. He feels that the European Union was formed to be competitive and to sort of take over the United States and take over them economically. At least always says that they're tough, doesn't like that he has to negotiate with 27 different nations, or that at least 27 different nations could have a say in those talks. Interesting, though, that you say Merz said by the end of the summer. We know July 9th is the deadline. that suggests there could be a little bit more of a runway there. We know U.S. officials have been open to delaying the deadline if they feel like talks are moving forward. And the other thing I've been thinking about this week and talking to some folks about is just how much is on the White House's plate. We already know that after last week, they said we haven't seen some of these side deals because they were focused on China. Now, of course, they're focused on what's going on in the Middle East. The question being, will they have time to negotiate any of these agreements? Maybe that's what we next hear is it's just a matter of timing, that they'll need more time. And maybe that's why they ultimately extend that deadline.
Yeah, which will be a question, whether they extend the 10% tariff reprieve or whether it'll go up on some places like Europe. Megan, thank you very much. Megan Casella and Banff. Let's get the read directly from the Middle East. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel on the ground in Tel Aviv. Richard.
So Iran had promised a ferocious response. Yesterday, Iran was threatening to carry out a missile assault against Israel, the likes of which this country has never seen. So far, it hasn't materialized. There have been several relatively small barrages against the city, against this country. There were air raid sirens here in Tel Aviv not long ago. There were more sirens, more incoming missiles earlier this morning. But in each case, there were only a handful of missiles that were fired. And according to the Israeli military, the majority of them were knocked out of the sky by air defense systems, or they fell in open areas. No reports of casualties. I was at one of the sites a short while ago. It was in just north of Tel Aviv in Herzliya. And the bomb, a ballistic missile, landed by a bus depot, a parking lot, where a sort of a bus storage area. I saw a deep crater in the ground, perhaps 15 feet deep, and it burned all of the buses in the area. So it gives a sense of how powerful these weapons are that Iran is firing. But we are not seeing the same level of fire that Iran was launching at Israel in the early days. It could be a sign of diminished capacity. Israel has been hitting Iran relentless. It has been hitting missile defense sites. It has been hitting missile launch sites. Israel says that it has now complete domination of the skies over Tehran. So it could be that Iran is holding its powder, or it's just it doesn't have the same capacity that it did even a few days ago.
Richard, appreciate the update. Always a value to the viewer to hear from you. Richard Engel of NBC News. Meantime, markets continue to digest the fighting in the...
All right. So again, escalations continue to rise. Tesla right here at 321, down about 2%. Palantir 140, down about 1%. Where's Hoodie? Hoodie is 74.88. So Robinhood getting a little bit hit right here after hitting 77 today, down 2.4%. Some of these high beta names are going down right now, getting some red candles. Wow, Reddit from 15% to 8%. Kind of had a feeling that 15% wasn't going to last, bro. This is very high beta. The announcement today was not like super, super bullish. It was, hey, more AI tools for advertisers. I don't know if that warranted a 15% move, but still up 8%, which is great for the day. But not at 145 where it was in the beginning of the day. Where's AMD? That one's still up about 2%, but down from about 130 as well. JD Vance just tweeted. All right, let's see what he tweeted. We'll see if we can get some further updates from here. JD says, okay, here we go. Look, I'm seeing this from the inside, and I'm admittedly biased towards our president and my friend, but there's a lot of crazy stuff on social media, so I just wanted to address some things directly on the Iran issue. First, POTUS has been amazingly consistent over the past 10 years that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Over the last few months, he encouraged his foreign policy team to reach a deal with the Iranians to accomplish this goal. The president has made clear that Iran cannot have uranium enrichment, and he said repeatedly that this would happen one of two ways, the easy way or the other way. Second, I've seen a lot of confusion over the issue of civilian nuclear power and uranium enrichment. These are distinct issues. Iran could have civilian nuclear power without enrichment, but Iran rejected that. Meanwhile, they've enriched uranium far above the level necessary for any civilian purpose. They've been found in violation of their non-proliferation obligations by the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is a hardly right-wing organization. It's one thing to want civilian nuclear energy. It's another thing to demand sophisticated enrichment capacity. And it's still another thing to cling to enrichment while simultaneously violating basic non-proliferation obligations and enriching right right to the point of weapons-grade uranium. I have yet to see a single good argument for why Iran needed to enrich uranium well above the threshold for civilian use. I've yet to see a single good argument for why Iran was justified in violating its non-proliferation obligations. I've yet to see a single good pushback against the IAEA's findings. Meanwhile, the president has shown remarkable restraint in keeping our militaries focused on protecting our troops and our citizens. He may decide, wow, that's the sentence. He may decide he needs to take further action to end Iranian enrichment. Folks, it really does feel like there is a world, based on everything we talked about in the morning and based on this right here from the vice president, where this does indeed turn into an offensive approach by the U.S. That decision ultimately belongs to the president. And of course, people are right to be worried about foreign entanglement after the last 25 years of idiotic foreign policy. Okay, so J.D. Vance also acknowledging that elephant in the room, which is that, hey, we don't want another random Middle Eastern war. But I believe the president has earned some trust on this issue. And having seen this up close and personal, I can assure you that he is only interested in using the American military to accomplish American people's goals. Whatever he does, that is his focus. That is a bit interesting now. This is one, I don't know, bro. JD says he may decide he needs to take further action to end Iranian enrichment. That's him acknowledging this might escalate. However, he's also saying, I get your concern that we don't need to have another Middle Eastern war. But he follows that up by saying, trust the president. Trust the president on this one. Which begs the question, do you trust the president? All right, do you trust the president here? I don't know. Pouncer just released a response. They released it in the morning, right? Or did they have another response to the letter? Oh, yeah, they did. Oh, look at this. Wow, look at that. Pouncer on the offensive. Check your inboxes. We replied to your letter already when you are done with the political theater. There you go, baby. Pouncer. Talk about getting on the offensive. Pouncer saying, stop this political bullshit. Here is our full response. Okay, this is a long response. We'll read through it in a second. I'll put this in the chat for anyone who wants to read it. But there you go. Pouncer with the response. Pouncer with the response here. JD Vance, bro, saying, hey, we might have to take further action to end Iranian enrichment. They used AI to reply. I would imagine Pouncer knew this letter was coming, which is why they have a response so quick. So that's probably why they're able to put out this response. Okay, here's the question. Let's ask a poll in the chat. Let's ask this question. By the way, 77% of you said no, you would not want the U.S. to take an offensive position in the war. It's ontology written material. Here's the question. If Iran seriously, like actually seriously, when I say seriously, was close to getting a nuke, should the U.S. intervene? Assume at the highest level, assume like 90% chance Iran really does have the ability to get a nuke, or that we know they're going to get a nuke. Like assume like it's legit, like there is a weapon of mass destruction. Because we can all debate about how, this is stupid to do because Iran doesn't have a nuke. That's fair. That's a good debate, and we've had that debate. But let's assume they do. Let's take them at their highest level, that they really do have a nuke. Should the United States at that point take action? That is the question here. Because I think there's still separate perspectives here as well, right? There's separate perspectives here as well. I mean, Dave Smith, he had a clip that went pretty viral yesterday. I'll play that right. It's a 2-minute clip. Dave Smith is a big Trump guy. He's also a big libertarian. He's not really the biggest fan of Israel. And he was calling on the entire impeachment for Trump based on this whole situation.
2007 that the Pentagon told George W. Bush that we cannot go to war with Iran because we do not have escalation dominance against them, essentially meaning that they can hit all of our bases and embassies in the region, and we are very vulnerable to them. And we've already seen demonstrated since the Israeli attack that the Iranian, the missiles that they sent last year toward Israel, as many of us guessed, that wasn't really their best. They were intentionally making an attack that wouldn't really hurt anybody, that wouldn't really lead to a war, which Iran has done over and over again. But now we've pushed them to the point where they probably don't feel that they have the option not to respond. And Donald Trump telling them to come back to the negotiating table now is a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, what a impotent leader to be sitting there talking about coming back to the negotiating table. It's like sitting after Pearl Harbor and telling FDR, now's the time to go negotiate with the Japanese.
Right.
Negotiations are over now. The time for negotiations was before this. And so, yeah, Donald Trump looks, and man, I supported him this last year. I apologize for doing so. It was a bad calculation. At the time, it seemed like the right one. But he should be impeached and removed for this one, and not on some like not on some ridiculous Nancy Pelosi. Of course, the Congress will never do it because they're all a bunch of corrupt hacks.
This is the one thing they support. This is like
Donald Trump should be impeached and removed for this. All of his supporters should turn on him. It's the absolute betrayal of everything that he ran and campaigned on and everything that he stood for. And I will say, despite the fact that, Donald Trump supporters have been labeled like a cult following, and that certainly is true for a percentage of his supporters, he is going to lose his coalition over this. I don't just speak for myself when I say there are a lot of us who simply will not go along with this. So it's just a devastating mistake. By the way, on top of that, he's also going to lose the deportation fight because of this. Because right now he needed all the political capital he could have to turn that, you got a majority support for deportations, but the minority is very mobilized and they're out and they're protesting all around the country. He needed all of his political capital for that move. So here's what we got. The neocons win. More war abroad and, bomb the world and invite the world. No matter who you vote for, you always get John McCain.
That is a clip that went pretty viral yesterday. By the way, Bitcoin right here, down about $3,000, 104 currently right now on Bitcoin. I would imagine there's a lot of people that agree with that take. There's a lot of people that voted for Trump for no war. And theoretically, again, based on what JD Vance just said, there might be an escalation. I mean, he's literally telling us the president might choose to take matters into his own hands and become more aggressive on the situation. But at the same time, he's acknowledging that we don't want to have bad foreign policy again. 70% of you say yes. If Iran was seriously close to getting a nuke, the U.S. should intervene. Okay, so on the previous poll, basically 70% of you guys said U.S. should not be on the offensive. On this poll, you're saying if Iran actually does have a nuke, 90% chance, right, that they're really close to it, then the U.S. should intervene. This is going to be the debate. This is going to be the debate in this country. The debate in this country is going to be, if we end up getting to the situation where there's a meaningful chance that Iran has a nuke, how many people still think it's not worth doing versus how many people believe that there's no way we can have a safe country if Iran has a nuke. The thing about nuclear weapons that's so important to understand is that once a country develops a nuke, you can't invade them. You can't bully them. You can do some sanctions, you can do some restrictions, you can have a travel ban, but you can't really bully them. And classic example, North Korea. The reason we're not really messing with North Korea or trying to get them to become a democracy or get them to go, to understand the nuances between them and South Korea and potentially have any level of reunification is because they've got a nuke, or at least they, are rumored to have a nuke. But from all intended purposes, people believe that North Korea has a nuke that theoretically could go off. Maybe it's not the best nuke, but they do have something. As soon as Iran gets a nuke, or any level of getting really close to a nuke, to the point where no matter how much you bomb them, you're not going to stop them from still being able to enrich uranium, unless you drop a nuke on them, which no one wants to do. You can't really extract much from them anymore. They become a superpower to an extent. And the thing about Iran in particular is what they've said about having a nuke is that, they want to use that nuke. And quite literally, the supreme leader has said, we want to eliminate the Jewish state. We want to, for lack of a better purpose, they said they want to kill all the Jews. And so I think that's why Israel obviously is very afraid of Iran getting a nuke, but that's also why America is afraid of them getting a nuke, because they know that if Iran and Hezbollah is crazy enough to actually drop a nuke, it is the beginning of World War III. Because then the US gets in, then Russia gets in, then China gets in, etc. And then it becomes aggressive. Yes, Israel has nukes as well. Israel has nukes as well. I'm not saying they don't have nukes. Now, they are going to deny their nukes all the time. So here's the question, right? The question becomes, and again, this is where people have to have a debate. Israel denies that they have nukes, or they say we'll never confirm or deny. Everyone knows they have nukes. Like, it's pretty obvious Israel has nukes. The question is, if Israel gets a nuke, does Iran get to have a nuke? Does the Middle East, do some of these countries that think in the way they think, do they get to have a nuke? Like, if Israel gets to have a nuke, Israel, again, is a little bit different from some of these other Middle Eastern countries, just in terms of how they govern themselves, how they have religious laws, etc. Is it acceptable for Iran to have a nuke, for Afghanistan to have a nuke, for Iraq to have a nuke, for the Saudis to have a nuke? Because that's the other thing. Once Iran gets a nuke, all the other Middle Eastern countries are like, all right, we got a nuke up as well. And so I don't know what the answer to that question is, but for the people that think that America's being a hypocrite or Israel's being a hypocrite right now because if they have a nuke, then Iran should be able to have a nuke, then it begs the question, do you trust Iran with a nuke? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. But the United States obviously has a stance that says we absolutely, and it's not just the United States, it's pretty much everyone in the West, right? France, Canada, all of them put out statements yesterday, the UK saying Iran cannot have a nuke. And that's why they're so quick to help Israel here, to be able to get them to not have a nuke. Or one could argue, they theoretically are governed by the neocons, as per Dave Smith's analysis. They want to get into a war, and so they're using this Iran can't have a nuke argument to then push themselves into war. And again, I think it's going to be a debate around narratives over the coming months if this does end up assuming the majority of Trump's political capital, which Dave Smith is absolutely right about. Like, deportations, there's a lot of will in the country for mass deportations. This is what Trump won on as well. But there's a lot of protest and resistance against that. And you need to use your political capital on the big, beautiful bill, which so far doesn't look like it's going to get passed by July 4th, and then deportations. If he tries to split it between deportations, the big, beautiful bill, and now Middle Eastern war, I mean, it might just not be that easy. It might just not be that easy for Trump to get away with all this. So, yeah, I think these are going to be the coming narratives over the coming weeks. Look, from my perspective, based on what I've heard Iran say, all right, and I could be wrong, but based on what I've heard Iran say, they are, they're not a fan of Israel, and they quite literally, again, from what I've heard, if I'm wrong about what I've heard, then please correct me, but Iran has said they want to eliminate the state of Israel. They do not want Israel to exist. And the supreme leader has said this. Many generals have said this. They said this time and time again in interviews, that they do not want Israel to exist. So my perspective here then becomes, okay, that's just rhetoric, right? They can say that they don't want Israel to exist. The question is, would they take action? They also say death to America. Again, yes, they not death to America. We've heard many times, but I've seen a couple of interviews that are translated by the supreme leader, and he has quite literally said, he says all the sort of anti-Semitic tropes. The Israelis are rats, yada yada. They need they need to be perished from the face of the earth. All this stuff, they've said this many, many times. And so then the question becomes, would they actually take action if they have the capability to eliminate the state of Israel? Which, by the way, you drop a nuke, you can definitely eliminate a state, especially a state that's the size of New Jersey. And so from my perspective here, do I want us to get into a war? Absolutely not. And I think we would have to have a serious debate in this country on if we need to get into war. My gut reaction is no, we should not be fighting this war. But I also think that if Iran says, they're going to do something and they have the capabilities to then do it, given the attacks we've seen the terrorist proxies from Iran carry out over the past decade, are we to really believe they're not going to do it? Are we really to believe they're not going to drop a nuke? I mean, with all this stuff going on in Russia and Ukraine, Russia has still not actually dropped a nuke on them. As bad as it's been, that is the red button you just don't press, because you know what happens when you press that button. I don't know if Iran has that same type, because again, one of the things about Iran, and this is very important about the Middle East as well, and I don't think this is not even controversial to say, because this is the nature of their societies, they are governed by religion. And whether it's Sunni, Sharia law, whatever type of religion it is, whatever denomination of Islam that it is, the point is, most of these countries in the Middle East, Saudi has been, one of the more progressive ones over the past 5 years. is governed by religion. And if to an extent they believe, they interpret, it's not my interpretation of what Islam says, but if their interpretation of what Islam says is, hey, we've got to go after some stuff, then, it might not be the best situation in the world. Because we've seen what has happened with, the concept of jihad. 9/11 was based on this idea of just like, hey, if you believe what Al-Qaeda said, it was a mission for them to carry out on the United States, primarily driven by their religious beliefs. If you believe that, and you believe it could get as bad if they have a nuke to carry out whatever mission they think they need to carry out, obviously that's very scary to see happen. It's like, this is why, you want to have nukes in countries that have such a big economy and have so much power and have so many citizens and have so many resources and have so many trading relations, where they know if they drop a nuke, there's going to be massive consequences. If Iran drops a nuke and they're already sanctioned by the rest of the world, and they obviously don't care that much about their citizens, they might not have anything to lose, is the argument that they could be going down. And if that's the case, that would obviously be a horrible situation for a country to have a nuke in at that point. Arrow down 7%. All right, this is the first time we're seeing a little bit of a drop on Arrow. That one's down 7%. Again, a lot of these growth stocks. Tessie down 3, below 320. Below 320 on Tessie, 318. Palantir just below 140. Robinhood just below 75. And then the S&P still holding 6,000. Still holding 6,000. So there you go. European Commissioner President just said trade talks between the U.S. are advancing, have agreed on 9th July deadline. Okay, that's good. That's good. The German Chancellor said relatively the same thing today. So that is one good update for the broader markets. If we've got Europe coming in and saying that we've got a shot to get this trade deal done. The U.S. subscribes to the religion of capitalism. Look, you're not wrong. And this is what Dave Smith was saying. I mean, 1,000%, you are right about this. There is a world where you've got massive defense contractors and the military-industrial complex that theoretically could be urging Trump to get into this war right now because it means a lot of money for Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, et cetera. That absolutely could be happening right now, and that is the religion of capitalism, which is, what Trump was elected on to go the opposite direction of, right? Trump was, like, the whole MAGA movement was based on this idea that we don't want to get into pointless wars anymore, and we don't want to, be at the behest of defense contractors just to make more money. And that could be something that Trump is trying to figure out right now. And so when JD Vance says you have to trust Trump, the question is, do we trust that Trump's going to have the foresight to not be subsumed by the military-industrial complex that theoretically would want something like this to happen to an extent? And I don't think anyone has an answer to this. I don't think anyone has an answer to this. Chris says, it's bizarre that a country with dozens and dozens of nukes won't join the International Nuclear Commission and won't let anyone see or know anything about their nukes, but they want Iran to. Look, I don't disagree with you. I 1,000% agree. Some of you guys think I have a political stance on this, dude. I've told you guys many times, I am not political. I don't care about imposing my politics. Whenever you guys come into the stream or this channel, the last thing you're going to get is me trying to convince you of a political belief. I am trying to keep it as balanced as possible by showing both sides. I 1,000% agree that Israel denies that they have nukes. We all know they have nukes. The United States definitely knows they have nukes, and they refuse to join the IAEA to be able to actually get their nukes commissioned in a formal way, like every other country, Pakistan, India, America, Russia, China, et cetera, have to go through in order to have an actual record on the books of how many nukes that they have. That is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous that Israel doesn't do that. And then at the same time, they deny that they have nukes. Like, we all know they have nukes. It's not a secret anymore. And the rumors are they have well over 200 different nuclear ballistic missiles or nuclear ballistic warheads that they could launch at any moment. This is one of the most sophisticated defense militaries on the planet. So I agree with you. It is absolutely hypocritical for them to not be part of the agency that actually counts their nukes. And one could argue it is also hypocritical for them to say Iran doesn't get a nuke, but we get to have a nuke. The nuance here, because there is nuance to everything, it's not black or white, is do we trust that if Iran gets a nuke, they won't use it? And I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but obviously the United States and the West does not believe that they should have a nuke because, the inevitable argument is that they probably would use it. The Dixie right here, 98.47, that's up about 0.5%. In about 20 minutes, we'll have the Robinhood event. And we will get to at least not focus on Israel, Iran for 30 minutes and get to see some new products on Robinhood. So that should be out in about 20 minutes. S&P right here, 6,000. Pound right here, 139.74. SoFi 54 or SoFi 1454. If it was at 54, that'd be nice. SoFi's at 1454. And NVIDIA at 144.54. Tesla right here at 318. Let's read the letter that Palantir put out and see what they had to say against the AOC letter. So here you go. Dear Senator Wyden and Representative Ocasio-Cortez, we write in response to your letter dated June 17th requesting information regarding our work on behalf of the U.S. government. This letter appears to be based on an incorrect and speculative May 30th article from the New York Times, to which we have issued an unequivocal public response to correct the record. But given the influence you hold over our public discourse and the importance in which we hold your office and institution, we want to respond to you directly. That's them basically saying you guys are full of shit, but we can't say you're full of shit because we have to respect you because you guys control funding. But you guys are full of absolute shit. To be very clear, Palantir is not building a master database, and Palantir is neither conducting nor labeling mass surveillance of American citizens. Palantir software is built at every stage to uphold, not undermine, legal and regulatory protections, as well as the ethics and standards that help institutions govern the appropriate uses of powerful technologies. Americans are entitled to better government. We object very strongly to the New York Times or anyone portraying technology and privacy as opposing forces. We believe that done well, they reinforce each other. When the IRS modernizes its systems, it is to process legitimate returns rather than directing actual tax fraud. When health agencies integrate their data, it is to identify disease outbreaks before they become epidemics. When the DoD deploys Palantir, it is to keep our soldiers safe and to protect our country. We do not operate the systems, access the data, or make decisions about its use. We provide the technology that makes accountability possible, systems that create audit trails, respect access controls, and enable openness. Tesla below 318 right now. We are proud of the work we have done for the U.S. government, which spawns both Democratic and Republican administrations dating back to the first Obama administration. Palantir's platforms are currently in use by thousands of U.S. soldiers and top commanders to protect America and our allies in the Middle East. Our software is enabling life-saving decisions at hospitals and addressing the recent measles outbreak as part of our long-standing work with the CDC. We are committed to American institutions regardless of who is in power and have partnered with the government for nearly 20 years without political favor. This is why we have been so concerned about the unfound speculation from the New York Times. Demagoguery only harms the institutions which are committed to serve and erodes the public's trust baselessly. The New York Times allegations based on fundamental misunderstandings about our software nonetheless provide us an opportunity to address important questions. How should technology serve democracy? How do we modernize government services without sacrificing the privacy protections that define our free society? And who ensures transparency and accountability? These are difficult questions we take very seriously and never lose sight of in the course of our work. We should welcome the opportunities to have a dialogue with you and our staff on privacy and civil liberties issues. Final sentence right here. We believe in the architecture of democratic government, in the vision of the Constitution that the government should carry out, in the wisdom of the people as it changes over time. What we aim to offer is not and never will be a tech-powered panopticon, I got to look up that word, but instead the accountable republic of the founders' design. The CTO of Palantir, Aki Jain, and also the president of Palantir's U.S. government business, signed the letter. This is a type of prison architecture designed to maximize surveillance and control over inmates. Okay. How do you say, you guys really thought I was going to say that word right? Dude, out of all words, you thought I would say that word right?
Panopticon.
Panopticon. See, this is how my mind works, bro. This is how my mind works. I see that O and I think panopticon. This is the issue. I think I read differently than other people. Is it dyslexia or something? Because I don't want to downplay dyslexia, and I don't think I'm dyslexic, but it's something. If it's not dyslexia, it's something else. Maybe they haven't found a word for this shit, but
Panopticon.
I would not have said that when I see an O after an A. That sounds to me like panopticon. I'm sorry. It just is what it is, bro. It is what it is. Like, this is just, it's a middle lexicon. You're just kind of dumb. Okay, that's fair. You could also say that as well. But that's how my brain works. Okay, so that's the response. I like it. It's a good response. I wonder if this actually leads to anything. I wonder if Karp actually is going to be in Congress testifying on this or anything, or if it's going to die down. But I guess we'll find out over the coming weeks if this escalates. Iran launches new wave of missiles against Israel. Iranian state media. That came out 2 minutes ago. There you go. There you go. All right. So Iran is fighting back. New wave of missiles. We're going to be getting a lot of updates over the next 5-7 hours on how these missiles are launching, if they're effective. The time in Israel right now is 6:50 p.m. Time in Iran is 7:15 p.m. We should be probably getting a lot of videos. We're going to see a lot of stuff coming soon. Also, we're going to see if the Iron Dome is actually able to intercept a decent chunk of these missiles that over the weekend, I think about 10 to 15% of them did get through. And so we're going to get some more information there as well. Dude, Metallica, you got to give me some credit. That was a good troll yesterday. That was a good troll. Like, Metallica was a great troll. I should have kept it going, bro. I should have really kept it going. I should have kept it going for like 20 minutes. And then finally told you guys that I was trolling. It was a good one. For those that didn't see it, it was a good. Let me show you guys this right here, dude. It was good yesterday. And I had such a straight face, and I was proud of myself. It was hilarious, right? It was a good one. It wasn't a bad one. Let me pull this up right here. Okay, so here. Really good discussion. It would have gone on for another hour, but it was that dude has a sick Explorer guitar. Farzad, I have seen him play his guitar many times on stream. He likes some band called like Metallica or something like that. He's like a big fan of Dude, I think it takes a lot of intellectualism to even mess up the name as well as I did to get people to believe that I was actually saying it wrong. Like, I really do think this is a bit of a talent more than it is a weakness, in my opinion. Them, I've never like heard of them, to be honest. What is their like #1 song? Metallica. Yeah, they're like for like 1981, a Los Angeles band, heavy metal. That's what he's into. Metallica is an American heavy metal band. It was formed in LA by 1981 by vocalist, guitarist James Hetfield and drummer Lars Ulrich. So that's the main song that he. What are you guys saying? This is my acting. I think I have a career in acting, bro. This is my acting here. Wait, what are you saying in the chat? Why is everyone making fun of me? What are you saying? Farzad, why are you mad? He said it has to be true. What are you talking about? Dude, it's freaking... Is it not Metallica? It's freaking Metallica. What do you mean? It's not like... What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Why is everyone upset? Metallica? What? Even that part was good, right? That part was good. I was sounding it. I was like, what do you mean Metallica? How do you say that? Was a good one, dude. That was good. It was a good one last night. It was a fun way to end the stream. And then I was like, all right, I'm trolling. But then the funny thing is after that, dude, I went into Robinhood to type in Metallica because I was supposed to go to YouTube Music. Apparently I thought Robinhood was Spotify or something. I went into freaking Robinhood and I typed in metal. And I was like, what is wrong with me, bro? I can't believe I tried to type in Metallica on Robinhood. And then number 2, I was like, oh, I know a Metallica song, Hotel California. And obviously that was wrong. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm wrong. That's Aerosmith. And that was wrong too. It's the freaking Eagles. Apparently there's some band named the Eagles out there. I didn't know that. It was just like back to back. It was wrong across the board. Hotel California is a great song though. It's one of my favorite songs. Top 10 song all time. I think we can agree. Top 10 song all time. We've never done top 10 songs, but we've done top movies all time. We never did top 10 songs. I think I'll put Hotel California up there. Top 10 all time. I think it's got to be up there. The guitar solo alone is incredible. Pounds right here, 139, Robin at 74.90. We will be streaming Robinhood's event in about 10 minutes. We'll stream Robinhood's event in 10 minutes. And we'll get some coverage from them. But yeah, I've got to listen to Metallica a lot more, dude. I kind of like Metallica more than Metallica. Dude, how does Farzad come back right when... Dude, Farzad, I was just showing them yesterday the Metallica trolling that I was doing. He finds a way to come back every time. when I'm talking about Metallica. Kind of sounds cool, right? Metallica. Kind of sounds like a cool name. But dude, no, the most embarrassing part was last night where my dad asked for VIX and I said it's down 2%. Like, this man's nose is stuffy. He needs some VIX, and I'm telling him, oh, it's down 2%. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, what's down 2%? I was like, the VIX. You asked me about the VIX. He was like, dude, I need some VIX for my nose. I was like, oh my goodness. This is just unbelievable. This is a different world. I'm living in a different world at this point. But that's what it's like when you get obsessed with the markets. Amit, are you thinking of taking any money out of this market with the escalating outlook in the Middle East? No, I'm covered across my entire portfolio with calls. So I think the covered calls, again, I've been saying it for 2 months. I think this is a covered call market. I think although it feels like things go up really crazy one day, the covered call is your best friend here. It's not like 2024 where everything's going to run away from you. There's going to be some situations that are going to be a little sticky. If you had a covered call at 50 on Robinhood, yeah, obviously you're underwater. But I think having a covered call at 80 for this week, or even 78 for this week, it's not crazy and it's manageable. NVIDIA, you have a covered call for 148 for this week, 150, not a big deal. Palantir, you have a covered call from 135 to 145, not the craziest deal. So to me, it's not, a real hedge is when you buy puts, the market goes down and you're able to hedge your losses on the equity with the gains on the put. But a covered call to an extent is a hedge, right? Because if the market does collapse, all those calls go to zero. I collect all that premium and then I can write another round of calls. And given my averages are so low on a lot of the positions, there's a margin of safety of at minimum, 30% until I break even, which means if I don't think the market's going to collapse 30%, then I think I'll be okay. So that's just why I'm not really buying puts or selling anything right now and getting out of the markets. I do weeklies. Yeah, I like weeklies. I used to do monthlies, but I like weeklies way more because there's just so much news that, imagine this, the Israel-Iran conflict breaking out. You need to, monitor that on a daily basis. And that helps you pick your strike prices as well based on the sentiment of the market. But if you have a month out, you can't control it. You just don't know what's going to happen in 30 days. So I do like it on the weeklies. Basent serving as Trump's stand-in at G7 after president's exit. Okay, so Basent, we did see him on TV yesterday. He was there with Trump. It looks like he will be taking the role and staying there as Trump has left the event. Let's see if we have any other coverage here on anything else. Again, in 8 minutes, we'll have that Robinhood event. We'll see what they have to say. The big news with that Palantir letter, we talked about that. We talked about Palantir's response. And then I guess throughout the rest of the day, we'll get more information around Israel and Iran. Hall of Fame troll moment. Dude, I thought of it in the moment. I saw someone's comment. See, this is why I'm saying the chat is so important. This is why I really enjoy engaging with the chat, and you kind of need the chat to make the streams good. I don't get it when streamers don't look at their chat or don't obviously you can't respond to every single comment, but I don't get it when they're just not paying attention to the chat, because the chat is the stream. Without the chat, there's no stream. And so when someone said, hey, do you know that Farzad plays a guitar? Immediately inside of my head, bro, you can call it genius, you can call it a better adjective than genius, call it whatever you want to call it. But there was something that clicked in my head. It was oh, this will be a good moment to troll Metallica. And I don't know how I think of this stuff, but it just comes to me somehow. But it was because of that comment. If someone didn't say, hey, I heard Farzad's good at the guitar, I wouldn't have thought, oh, I should be able to troll everyone on Metallica right now. But that comment, it created the moment to be able to do that troll. So it was fun. And hopefully we can have more of those in the future. All right, is Robinhood live? Let's see. Robinhood, let me go to their YouTube channel. Okay, cool. We got 5 minutes. 5 minutes until they're live. I think this is going to be for active traders. So it might not be the coolest features, because a lot of people like myself don't actively trade. But regardless, as investors, we care about, is this going to make the product better? And that's what matters. So, dude, now I have to listen to Metallica tonight. Now I have to. I need to use that on Steve, bro. Next time Steve's on the show, I'm going to ask him, has he listened to Metallica? And we just need to see his reaction. We've got to see his reaction here. because it would be hilarious. You know what I love? What I wish Robinhood had a feature for option sellers. Like I wish they let you like see your adjusted cost basis and all this stuff. Like because at the end of the day, options makes them like $800 million a year. So I feel like if they could build some features for the people that sell options to like keep track of all this, like that would be so cool. But it doesn't seem like something they're massively focused on yet. Tesla 318, Palantir 139, Robinhood 7484, 7485. But it would be nice to get some of those updates. Trump, we now have complete and total control over the skies of Iran. Yeah, he just tweeted, we now have complete and total control over the skies of Iran. Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived, and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. Oh my goodness, we're getting involved. We are getting involved, folks. We're getting involved. There, I felt in the morning, bro. I felt in the morning the way he was talking that we're getting involved. Trump, we now have complete, I'll show you guys the tweet in a second, complete and total control over the skies of Iran. Is the market tanking? Where is the S&P? We are getting involved, folks. Still on a defensive perspective, S&P barely down. It's still not offensive yet, but absolutely we are getting involved. Looks like we are getting involved, folks. Let me show you guys this. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Well, I think most people expected it, right? The question is, do we get offensively involved? What does that mean? Total, complete and total control of the sky. What does that mean exactly? I imagine that means that we have our F-35s and all of our fighter jets in the air patrolling the region. Or it means that, yeah, they've given Israel a ton of equipment to be able to patrol the skies as well. Which, again, doesn't mean we are offensively striking, but it does mean that it's a warning to Iran saying, hey, if you want to keep doing this, America's part of it now. And he said we, which means he's implying, yeah, I mean, we is the United States and Israel. Oh boy. But funnily enough, the markets are not responding to it. This is not a response by the markets at all. Like Hood still 75, Palantir 139. Like this is like the markets are not taking that seriously at all. And maybe it's because they still think this is not going to be something that escalates to be as dramatic as what people think. Yeah, I mean, there's one perspective right here that Frazzle says in the chat. It actually is showing we can manage it without an attack. Which, theoretically, if this ends up not resulting in some massive attack, then yeah, we are managing it without going on the offensive. Is Bitcoin green? Bitcoin is going to be interesting to see if Bitcoin actually, no, Bitcoin's down even more, down 3.1%, 104. So gold is down as well today. It's not down as much as Bitcoin, but you do have Bitcoin going red. One could imagine because of this geopolitical escalation. NVIDIA right here, 144, Tesla 318, Palantir 139, Robinhood 7509. All right, folks, here we go. In 30 seconds, we are going to see what Robinhood introduces. Most likely will be something for active traders. It will be some new demos, some new products. The event is called Mobilize. Maybe they're bringing Legend to a mobile product to an extent. Or maybe Mobilize just means they're trying to get people to like understand the way they think about Legend in a fundamentally different way. And get people to, make more trades from an active perspective. But that is the new event we've got going on. Here we go. We are going live into it in about 3 seconds. This is the Robinhood event.
Good morning and welcome to Robinhood headquarters here in Menlo Park, California. I'll give you all a few minutes while Vlad is still running late.
I'm right here. I'm here.
Great.
Sorry, I was making you coffee as usual.
As usual.
I don't really do much here other than make Gina and others coffee.
I think this is the first time you've made me coffee, but
Yeah,
I'm
usually
excited.
it's espresso, but I figured this would be a little bit more delightful to demonstrate. All right, let's see. Allow me.
Looks good. Thank
Yeah, it's
you.
going to be super
This is milk?
caffeinated. Yeah. I thought it was bad luck to pour your own steamed milk.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, let me do it.
Oh,
All right, there you go.
thank you. Thank you.
There's about 6 shots of espresso in that.
Okay, good. I need it.
All right, cheers.
Cheers. Oh, it is hot.
Not bad, huh?
It's good. It's good.
All right. Thank you for joining us. We're live, right? Are we live?
I think
Okay,
so.
good.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us for our first Robinhood live demo, Mobilize. You've probably seen some of our recent product launches. The last one was actually viewed by over 5 million people, which is pretty crazy. Hopefully you'll be watching our first ever crypto keynote at the end of this month. But what we wanted to start doing was take you behind the scenes on a more regular basis and do a deep dive on some of the newest trading features that are rolling out. So hopefully this will give you a head start on using them and also a chance to meet the people who've been working so hard to bring them to you. People like Gina right here, who is our Senior Director of Brokerage Product, making her Robinhood Presents debut. How's it going?
It's going great. We're very excited. This is great coffee.
Thanks. I call it the Vladimir Special. You know, it's a nice light roast with hints of honey. Actually, it was just from the machine outside. So, okay. In a moment, we're going to introduce you to 2 new trading features that will start rolling out today and continue to roll out over the coming weeks. But first, I wanted to do a quick little recap. So as you might know, one of the goals these past few years has been to make Robinhood the #1 platform for active traders. In October, we hosted our first ever active trader event, Hood Summit, and we announced a completely new suite of products, including Robinhood Legend, which is our first desktop platform built from the ground up for active traders. Since then, I'd say we've been pretty quickly expanding. We've been expanding what's possible on Robinhood, and I can just give you a little tour of the app here as it stands today. We rolled out futures, which you can see right here. And futures, I think one of the most popular things has been the incredible trading ladder that's really optimized for mobile.
Yeah.
We've also added index options, which you can see right here as well. And that's to all eligible customers. And we've rolled out a new prediction markets hub, which you can see right here on the homepage. This has been really popular. We've got event contracts across a number of categories, including economics, basketball. You can see here, Indiana OKC Game 6, hockey, and there's more being added all the time. I think the trading experience for all 3 of these asset classes has gotten an incredible response from our customers, and we'll just keep adding more. We're gonna keep refining this, which I think is what makes Robinhood so great. It's not just all of these assets, but they keep getting better. We keep streamlining them, making the experience better, and I think that's nowhere more true than the new side-by-side chain. So I'll demonstrate that here. Let's go to Costco. So the side-by-side chain is, I think, the best experience for trading options on mobile. You can actually build strategies with just a few taps. So I can kind of like demonstrate that here. And if you notice with this iron condor, the system automatically groups legs together when they form a spread. And you can actually just like slide up and down very easily. So I'm not aware of anyone that has an experience like this. And you can also just like very simply move left to right if you want to see the open interest, if you want to compare volumes. So if you're an active trader, I don't think there's a better chain experience, particularly on mobile. And there's one more thing. So if I go back, one more improvement we're making on mobile is something that we also teased in the Lost City of Gold event in March. It's called Robinhood Cortex. And the idea behind Cortex is that it's an AI investment tool that provides timely insights to help you navigate the markets. Really, it answers the question of what's going on with this stock. So the first Robinhood Cortex feature, which we're calling Digests, will start rolling out to customers in the coming weeks. So you can kind of see it here. Here's one that's moving quite a bit. And you actually get what I think is very useful information. So yeah, I think customers will really love that. And we're proud to say it's rolling out in the next few weeks.
So exciting.
Yeah. Last but not least, on Robinhood Legend, we've been shipping improvements almost weekly. The Legend team has really been cranking. We've added a ton of new technical indicators. We've added a snapshot widget that lets you track quotes and news. We've also added support for crypto and index options, and more recently, added more metrics to the options chain. So options charts and draw syncing are also in there. And now before I hand it over to Gina to run you through the demo, while she's doing that, I'm going to be looking through the comments on YouTube, maybe an occasional funny video as well. So if you have any questions about any of the stuff that we're going to demonstrate, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll try to answer a few of the good ones at the end of the demo. Gina?
Thank you, Vlad. All right. So since launching Legend, one of the key features we really see users engaging with within Legend is the charting experience. You know, charts are at the center of our traders' layouts, and over the past 6 months, the team has spent a lot of time really improving the charting experience. We've listened to a lot of feedback along the way. And one piece of feedback we've actually heard, I think, since we launched Legend has been around when is Legend coming to mobile? When are Legend charts going to be coming to mobile? So the team has been working over the past few months to deliver on that ask. And today we're really excited to show you the first version of a new advanced mobile charting experience. We're bringing the power of Legend into your mobile device.
This is really exciting.
I'm very excited. Okay, let's show them what it looks like. What stock should we use?
Why don't we do, let's try a different one. How about NVIDIA?
Yes, one of our traders' favorites. Okay, now that I'm on the stock details page, to get into the new advanced chart experience, I'm going to click advanced down here in the time span bar. You see that animation?
That's sick.
You should feel that connection to Legend. Okay, so here we are in the new advanced charting experience. There's a few key things I want to talk about today that I think really make this experience great. So the first is just around speed. It's incredibly fast if you want to navigate around within charts. So let's say I want to zoom in and out. I can do that very easily by pinching. And if I want to scroll back in time, I can do that too, just going back. It's really nice. Previously, if you wanted to do all of this, you actually had to manually adjust your time span. Now you can just do it right within the charts.
Yeah, it's very, very simple and smooth.
Very smooth. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is related to interval selection. So up until now, we were supporting down to 5-minute intervals, which was pretty good. With this release, you're now going to be able to go all the way down to 2 ticks.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, look at it go, which is actually pretty incredible. You see the data just streaming in. It's really helpful for monitoring the market, staying on top of things. You know, we know the market is moving, and this should really help our traders stay on top of it.
We've really been refining this for a long time. I know the team has been working hard, not just on the design, which, as you can tell, is very smooth and simple, but also on the back-end technology that powers the stream. So it's powered by our sub-second streaming technology, which I think is going to be really cool.
Yeah, and I want to say we know users have been asking for this for a while too. So the team is very, very excited to be able to offer this in this release. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is related to syncing with Legend. Before I talk about that, though, I do want to note you don't have to be a Legend user to take advantage of and really benefit from the new mobile charting experience. But if you are a Legend user, there will be some perks to that if you already have your setup on Legend. It's important to us that you don't have to recreate everything. You know, we know people are at their computer, they have to step away, they want to check their charts. We want you to be able to pick up basically right where you left off. And one of the things we actually see users customizing quite a bit is their indicator set. So that's going to be synced automatically. I'm going to go in and just add 2 indicators here from my set. I'm going to add RSI and SMA. And you see it automatically apply in there. Now, if you want to modify, you can do that. If you want to add new indicators, you can also do all of that right from mobile as well. I'm going to add one of my favorites, volume profiles.
Why do you like that one so much, Gina?
I think it's really helpful to see alongside the rest of the charting data. It's a different view that you don't normally get. As soon as we offered it, I've been using it. Also, I do want to say we're going to be significantly expanding the set of indicators that we support. So up until now, we've supported 7 indicators on mobile. With this release, that's expanding to over 80 indicators, so a significant expansion. And we plan to continue adding more too.
Gina,
I know.
can you add
Yep.
my indicator of choice?
What is it?
The Ichimoku cloud.
Yep. That is Vlad's favorite.
Only for the finest technical traders.
There we go.
Oh, look at that.
Looks really nice.
Yeah.
I knew where you were going with that. Yes. Yeah, we have quite a large selection now. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is related to trading from the chart.
Wait. Before, what about the drawing?
Oh, how could I forget drawing? Yes, thank you, Vlad. So if you've already set up your drawings on Legend, that will also automatically be synced to the mobile device too. So if you open charts, let's say I want to view the drawings that I have set up, I can do that. It's about to get very gnarly, and it's viewable in there as well. And pretty soon, we're going to allow for drawings within the charts. You're going to be able to create new ones. And again, anytime you're doing anything in mobile, it'll be synced right back to Legend, which is very, very nice.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Okay, the next thing I want to talk through, and what I'm probably most excited to talk about, is related to trading from the chart. So we've spent a lot of time thinking about how our users are using their mobile charts. And one thing that we've realized is it's really important to not move away from your charts if you're trying to execute a trade. You know, we know it's really cumbersome if you're looking at your charts and then you want to place a trade, you have to go through a number of screens. So we've worked pretty hard to pull a lot of trading capabilities directly into the chart experience.
I think this is going to knock your guys' socks off. It cuts down the steps needed to place a trade by over half.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of those things that if you're using a charting only platform, particularly one where you have to pay a expensive subscription, it's just not going to be able to match our user experience over time. You know, we own both of the charting and the trading, so we can just keep refining it to make it more seamless.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so one of the ways we're doing that is we're offering a new setting, an auto send trading feature. This will be a new setting that's available to everyone. I actually already have the setting turned on. I turned on and as soon as I got access to it. It will allow you to bypass a number of steps. So if you do want to move quickly in and out of positions, you can do that now directly from the chart. So let's see what it looks like. I'm going to place a market order. I can now do that in just 2 taps. I'm going to click buy market and then submit. You see it go through. So you're able to trade while staying on your chart, and you'll see immediately you see your orders. So you're able to manage your positions really easily within the charting experience too.
And what's that thing on the chart there? Is that your P&L?
That's your P&L. Yeah. So you're able to see your P&L. That'll be updating live, which is really, really nice. Again, if you want to monitor your positions. If you want to move out of the position quickly, you can also sell a market order here at the bottom. Or let's say I want to protect my position. I'm actually just going to place a sell stop order
And you did that just by tapping on the price level on the chart.
Yep, you can do that directly on the chart. So there's multiple ways you can actually trade from within the charting experience. That order already just filled. If you wanted to adjust the order, you can drag and drop that. If you want to place a new order, you can also do that. I'm going to place a stop order at this point, and you see that fill immediately.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So we're really, really excited about the trading capabilities in here. We do plan to continue to improve them as over the coming weeks. And so with that, that is our new mobile charting experience. We're really, really excited to say we're going to start rolling this out today. We'll continue to ramp up to users in the coming weeks. And we hope it takes your trading experience to a new level. We also hope for feedback. Your feedback is very valued and important. And like we've done with Robinhood Legend too, we plan to continue releasing new features in the coming weeks, with the first actually being an expansion into crypto, which I'm very excited about, which will be happening in just a few weeks.
And I actually think it's going to be the best advanced trading experience out there, particularly on your mobile device. And as with nearly all of our things, it's available at no cost, no additional cost.
Yeah, I totally agree. There is one more thing we want to show you today. This is specifically for our option traders out there. So over the last 18 months, we rolled out two very popular features for option traders. The first of those is a side-by-side chain. Vlad mentioned that earlier. The second is actually simulated returns, which helps you plan exits from your option positions. We see this used an incredible amount, 100,000 times daily. About a third of our option users use it. And so we've heard a lot of feedback asking for an expansion of this feature. What we want to talk about today will deliver on the ask. Exactly. So let's take a look at that. Let's pick a different stock.
Okay. Obviously not a recommendation, but why don't we move to Amazon?
Another great choice. One of our users' favorites. Okay. As you can see, I could easily just change the stock as well. You can do all of that from within the mobile chart experience. So if you do want to change your stock, you don't have to go back to the stock details page. You can just search for a different stock at the top.
You don't have to redo your indicators either.
No. Yeah.
The Ichimoku cloud is continuing to be on the screen.
Yes, exactly.
As it should be.
Another improvement that we've made is the ability to get to the options chain from the chart. So now you can do that in just one click as well. There's a new icon at the top next to the indicator icon here. I'm going to select that, and that's going to take me directly into the options chain. Again, we really want to make it seamless for our users to transition from charts to trading, charts to the chain, and reduce the number of steps that it takes to do that. Okay, so now that I'm on the options chain, before I show you this new feature, I want to note it's available in both views of our chain. I'm going to demonstrate it on the side-by-side chain. I really think you can see the power of this tool on the side-by-side chain.
It's just so cool.
It is very cool, yes. But it's available in either view. Okay, so I'm going to start crafting my position here, and immediately you see you're able to look at the potential returns that you could get based on different inputs. So whether that's price or time, you can simulate what could potentially happen before you move into a position. I'm going to keep setting up my order here, and you see it update in real time as well, which is very, very nice. As you're adding legs, again, and I'm scrubbing it just to demo it. This is incredibly powerful for users that are kind of evaluating what position they want to get into, looking at the different outcomes based on your strategy, and it all updates in real time, which is really nice.
When we talked to our advanced options traders, we found that a lot of them had to rely on sometimes 3 or 4 different apps that each had their own separate subscriptions. Just to get all the data to do their options research. And what we're trying to do with this and other tools is just put that in one place so you can have the data, you can do your research, and you can execute with no contract fees from one interface.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And there's actually 2 different views of this feature. So I'm going to switch to, it's actually my preferred view, which is over time. So just so you can see. And this is more similar to the simulated returns feature we have today. You're able to scrub and look at, again, potential returns based on different inputs, all updating in real time as you are adjusting your position. All right. So again, both of these features are rolling out. We're very, very excited to be bringing them to you with advanced charts rolling out today. The simulated returns feature will begin rolling out in the coming weeks. They both, again, will be available, no additional cost. And like I mentioned before, we'd love to hear feedback. We do plan to improve these, and we hope you enjoy them.
Yeah, and what you should expect from us, hopefully you've figured this out already. What you see is never the final version. There's
Yeah.
never a final version. So it's just going to keep getting better and better based on user feedback. And also sometimes we figure out cool things to do and,
It's a mix.
and
It's a mix
surprise
of both.
users.
Yeah.
Yeah. So should we do some Q&A?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's see what you guys have for
Hopefully we got some
Gina and me.
good questions.
Okay. I am looking here. Okay. Let's see. First question, I think for you, Gina.
Okay.
Can we see our open position in the chart, like in lead?
All right, cool. That's we got some more important stuff to talk about, guys. So look, the Robinhood event was cool. It's a live demo event. I didn't expect it to be some type of crazy new event with a bunch of products. It's cool. I don't actively trade, so I don't like. It's not that big of a deal to me in terms of if it will help increase the adoption and engagement of active traders. Seems so. Seems like the products are relatively cool. I do think it's a little. Some of the acting in the beginning is a little weird. Like I don't know. As a live demo is a little cringe in certain areas. Like the whole coffee thing. It's like just like it wasn't even funny. So it's like. I think they could have just played it a different way. But again, the point is they're doing this stuff, and the next one's going to get better and better and better. And that's what I care about as an investor, for them to keep putting this out there and doing what they have to do. Now, Trump just tweeted, and oh boy, did he tweet. Oh, freaking boy, did he tweet. So here it is, folks. Here's the tweet. We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out. Parentheses kill, at least not for now, but we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I mean, bro. Like, holy crap, dude. And we have another update from Israel. Let me just tweet this real quick so you guys can see it. Trump says we know where the supreme leader is, but we aren't going to take him out yet. I mean, dude, like for him to say that publicly and say basically we're contemplating taking out the leader of Iran, like that's Trump is seriously contemplating taking out the supreme leader now. This is just, I mean, dude, bro, Call of Duty in real life. Yeah, bro. Like Robinhood, like, dude, I love them, but this was just, unfortunately, this was not the time to have that product event. And obviously they didn't know this would happen, but like, this is crazy, bro. We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to kill him right now, at least not for now. We are, we don't want to use our, but we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The S&P 500, is it reacting? No, S&P doesn't care. S&P is about to go green. Barely down, dude. Like, this is incredible. The market quite literally does not think that this has an impact or that it matters. And I guess for whatever reason, the market wants to assume it's not going to matter, which is quite frankly, maybe the market thinks if Iran were to be the victim of a hostile attack by the United States would win and it would be resolved relatively soon. Now, granted, if they fight back and it's a full-on war, then, we're getting into a new war. But it's kind of like the market is pricing in that either the U.S. is going to win or this is not going to escalate. That's what it feels like the market's pricing in right here. That's what you got from Trump. And then we got this update from Israel just now. Came out like 10 minutes ago. Israeli Minister of Strategic Affairs says we are close to completing the mission in Iran. We are close to completing the mission in Iran. Which kind of feels like Trump is putting this, like, if Israel's saying, hey, we're close to getting the job done, you technically don't need to kill the supreme leader, right? You would kill the killing the supreme leader would be a last effort of trying to quote unquote win. If the target is regime change, if the target is not regime change, and if it's just destroying their nuclear facilities, I mean, I don't know if the United States and Israel are just saying, hey, we're going on for full on regime change here. But why put out this tweet if you don't need to take out the leader? Unless he's trying to basically say we're going to take him out and it's just a matter of time. And that's why he said, but we don't want missiles shot at our civilians. I think his argument there is saying, hey, we know where he is, and if they try to do anything, we've got the target loaded on him, which is kind of a dog whistle to Iran saying, hey, you guys even think of doing anything, your supreme leader's gone. Trump just tweeted unconditional surrender. Unconditional surrender in all caps. Unconditional surrender. Market still not really feeling it. Still not really fit. Market doesn't care. 601 on the S&P. Essentially, unconditional surrender to me means that he thinks that they definitely need to surrender soon, right? Like unconditional surrender means that we don't want any exceptions on you guys giving up your nuclear facilities. Market knows taco. Yeah, I mean, it might be that as well. That's a hell of a thing to say, bro. We know where he is. We can kill him if we want, but we're not going to do it. And as long as, essentially he's saying, as long as things don't escalate, then we won't have to take action. But he also says our patience is wearing thin. Our patience is wearing thin. Is he having a conversation with himself, or is the Supreme Leader tweeting back? The Supreme Leader is on Twitter. He does tweet often, to be honest. Brandon, thank you for being a channel member. I just bought my first Tesla. My account just hit 300,000. This is from Palantir and Hood. Brandon, congrats to you. Robinhood just had a really good event that hopefully will only escalate the engagement of their Legend product. So congrats on the Tesla and congrats on 300K. And then Jason, thanks for the $5 super chat. Massive milestones for me this year. Bought a Tesla across 150K investments, and today got approved for my gold card. Dude, a couple of my friends literally texted me during the Robinhood event, and they said that they just got their gold card. So I think they just approved a lot of people for this gold card. So congrats, Jason, for the gold card, the Tesla, and 150K investments. Very, very big deal. And yeah, it's incredible stuff, dude. The first 100,000 is the hardest, and you're now at 150. So incredible stuff. But it seems like a lot of people are getting these gold cards. A lot of people, which is really good, because the more gold cards, the better for the credit card business as well. All right, the event just finished. Here's the last 2 minutes of the event. Let's see how they kind of ended it out.
That's why I've been giving her so much coffee
all the time.
Yeah.
The whole team, actually, not just me.
Yes. So yeah, these guys have been grinding and incredibly busy. So thank you for that. I think we should probably wrap the questions, all the time we have for today. We can't wait for you to try these new products as they continue to roll out. You'll receive an email and a notification in-app when they're available for your account, which should be very, very soon. And we think you're really going to love them. We think they're going to level up your trading experience. And I think hopefully you agree.
All right, cool. Look, it was a good event by Hood. I do think the acting in the beginning was a little weird and cringe, and like, I didn't really get the joke with the coffee stuff. But overall, I'm happy they're doing the event. Like, I'd rather have them not do an event versus not do an event, because not doing an event just means they're not shipping as many products. So I thought it was good for their first attempt. I'm sure this will get better and better. Imagine they do this every month or every other month. That means we're going to get like minimum of 10 new products a year, which is incredible. And I'm pretty sure Vlad would like to do 20 new products a year. But they seem to be shipping. Tesla going green. It was at 315. Now it's at 321, even with all the stuff Trump is tweeting. And so hopefully that will be relatively strong for the broader product suite of Legend. Now, the one thing I thought they said was interesting is that a third of their users, the only stat we really got was that a third of their users use the simulated options feature, which I'll show you guys right now. And for those that haven't seen it, and it gets used 100,000 times a day. That's a lot of engagement. That's a great feature, great product. And more products like that is just going to deepen the moat that Robinhood has in terms of like engaging products. So these are my SoFi options. I can press simulate my returns right there. And if I do, I can literally drag SoFi stock price up or down, and you can see how the returns get simulated. So if SoFi gets to, in this case, $20, which is what I need for my spreads, I can drag up the max profit, and it says a max profit of 46,000. So it's a really good feature. And if they can keep integrating that in meaningful ways, then I think that would be very effective as well. Yeah, you can do it with options. It's mainly for options. It's not for stocks, because for options, you have, they could go up or down based on how the stock reacts over time. So you can do that for options to kind of see. Robinhood right here, 74.95. I know Tesla's down on the day, but it was down even worse about 20 minutes ago. So it is getting a little bit of a recovery, even though it's still down 2%. But the broader market not caring. S&P down 0.2% right now on the day. CoreWeave all-time high, really? Goodness, bro. The most speculative of names, CoreWeave up 7%. Trump quite literally saying we can kill the supreme leader if we wanted to. CoreWeave up 7%. I mean, I think the market's conclusion is either this doesn't de-escalate, or if it does escalate, it's going to be over because the U.S. is going to win. Yes, we covered the letter from Congress, Palantir. If you rewind about an hour, you'll see my coverage on that. I think we spent a good 20 minutes on it. I'm going to be posting some stuff on Twitter soon about it as well. But if you rewind back an hour, you'll see the coverage on it. Wild, bro. Absolutely wild. We have the ability to kill the supreme leader. Well, market doesn't care. Market doesn't care. Has he tweeted? The supreme leader is on Twitter. There he is right there. No, he tweeted 19 hours ago. All right, so he hasn't tweeted all day. All right, folks. We're gonna have to see how this develops. Brandon, thanks for the $5. Want to buy ASTS, but not at the current price. Can you run through a cash trip? So Brandon, I think you asked this question. I did this already. Maybe you left the stream on Monday. But we went through an example. I'll go through it again, but we talked about this on Monday. I think the simple argument right here is you look at the technicals and at what point would you want to buy the stock? And from some of the technicals that I've seen, 32.50 is where I would like to buy ASTS if I did get a dip. So I would go all the way to July 18th. Today, the stock is red, which is good because the premiums are up because people are willing to pay more for the puts when the stocks go red. Essentially, people are willing to buy insurance when things are bad. And so the $32 put right now is paying you $1.23. You would have to lock up $3,200 in capital a month from now. $1.23 divided by 3,200, so $123 divided by 3,200 is 3.8, which means you can make 3.8% on your money if you lock up $3,200. And if it gets to 32, then 32 minus 1.23, you're actually paying $30.77 because you already got the $1.23 premium, which means your adjusted cost basis is just above 30. And if it stays above 32, you keep the premium and then you just do it again. So that's the put that I would be selling on ASTS. And again, I don't think ASTS has to go to 32.50, but I was talking to someone last night who's like big in the calls, and he's like, yeah, I think 32.50 is possible by the end of the summer if it does have a downturn. So that's the only reason I'm picking that strike. Any change in your grab conviction? No. I have the only change that will happen this year is if we are still at $5 by the end of November, I will probably sell my options and convert them into stock. That's the only difference. That's the only change I think I'm going to have this year when it comes to grab. I think we're going to be closer to 7 by the end of the year. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But I am not. My conviction is very strong on the company, and that convertible note offering along with Howard Marks, Ray Dalio. I mean, all of that stuff. This is just the dog days of the stock. I went through this with Hood. I went through this with Palantir. If you have a fundamental good company, you will have the dog days. The dog days could be a year, could be 18 months, it could be 6 months, but it's the stuff you just have to deal with until the narrative changes. The only thing is I didn't have options on Hood and Palantir. Well, I did have on Hood, but Hood, crypto kind of created the catalyst, and so that helped move. But I never had options on Palantir. So because I have options on Grab, I will switch it to stock in about, let's call it 6 to 7 months if I don't see a massive move. But outside of that, you know, I still want this to be a 6-figure position because I think the asymmetry here is pretty aggressive. But we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see over the long term how that plays out. Did the S&P just go green? The S&P is $1 away from going green, folks. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. The Fed board announced an open meeting to discuss proposed revisions to the supplementary leverage ratio standards at 2 p.m. next Wednesday. That is super bullish for the 10-year. Is the 10-year down right now? The 10-year is down. If we can increase those SLR ratios, that means banks can start buying up a crap ton of treasuries, and that can meaningfully help with our credit markets when it comes to yields that have been pretty hot all summer. So that's important. Cool. All right. That's it for me, guys. This has been a long stream, 3 hours, 50 minutes. I'll be back on the market close. We'll have Technical Tuesday today, so we'll be going through all the stuff from a technical perspective with Jason. Word of the day. There's no way in hell I'm going to say this word. What is with these words, bro? What is going on? Equiponderate. Equiponderate? Yeah, equiponderate?
Equiponderate.
Equiponderate. To counterbalance or offset in weight, force, or importance. They use cinder blocks to equiponderate the uneven cargo in the truck bed. A bit of humor helped equiponderate the otherwise serious tone of the presentation. Couldn't they just say the word balance? Equiponderate. Like I got to figure out how to use this word. I feel like we can use this word in a bunch of different ways. Equiponderate. Well, Trump's tweets are not trying to equiponderate the situation. It is only escalating based on his latest argument about potentially killing the supreme leader. So we're going to have to see. SLR is supplementary leverage ratios. Essentially, they're the technical amount that JP Morgan, Bank of America, Citibank, et cetera, can have on the balance sheet as a ratio of their overall assets when it comes to treasuries. And after 2008, that number was dramatically changed. Even after the banking, Silicon Valley banking crisis, that number was changed. Besant has talked about for the past couple of months, hey, if we increase that number even by a couple percentage points, you can have hundreds of billions of dollars of demand for treasuries. And the banks love it because the banks get that risk-free yield, so that they want more treasuries. Now, it has to be done in a way that doesn't lead to another financial crisis, right? That's the reason we have these SLRs in the first place. But it could be really good for getting yields to come down, which is obviously important for mortgages, auto loans, credit card rates, etc. So we will see if there's any progress on that going into next week. All right, cool. That's it for me. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I will see you guys back on the market close at 3:45, and we'll see if we have any other updates going from there. The latest update right here is based on what Trump said around the supreme leader. Again, he also tweeted unconditional surrender. So I think by the end of the day, we're going to have a much better understanding of how this situation ultimately is playing out. All right. Thank you, guys. I'll see you guys for the market close. Bye, everyone.